Welcome everyone from around the world to another edition of the Global Sources Virtual Summit. I'm Karen from Global Sources, your host for the event. Following two successful editions of the summit that was hosted this year, which focused on sourcing and quality control in February and branding and product design in May, we'll be talking about growing online sales this time and hope to help you achieve the most out of your business. Do take this time to type in your location in the live chat so we can know where you're from. This edition of the summit is brought to you by PingPong as our platinum sponsor. They're your global payment solution and help you simplify your payment to suppliers. You can check out their link and have an estimate of how much you can save if you can process your payment via the PingPong solution. They'll also be hosting a roundtable discussion tomorrow to share an insight on navigating suppliers and sourcing challenges. Gamba, the world's first global marketplace for product development, is our year-round headline sponsor for the summit, and they're providing free consultation to all our summit participants. Last but not least, also our headline sponsor, Zignify, helping brands find the right manufacturers anywhere in the world. Before we dive into the summit, I'd like to share a good news with you. I trust you have all seen the video that was shown just now to kick off the summit. And yes, the Global Sources physical exhibition is returning on October 11th to 14th at the Asia World Expo in Hong Kong. After over 2 years of long wait, our physical show is finally back. We're now delighted to welcome 1,800 quality suppliers and over 50,000 innovative products from around the world, including all types of audiovisual equipment, computer products, wide range of electronics, mobile devices and accessories, home and kitchen products, fashion accessories, personal cares, and a lot more. Expected to be the world's largest professional sourcing event in the past 2.5 years since the epidemic, the show is set to host 100% verified suppliers from 10 countries and regions with their latest products. For all those that uses this QR code, this QR code shown on the screen to register, you receive extra incentives, including Octopus Top-Up, which is the traveling card in Hong Kong, F&B vouchers to be used at the venue, and supermarket vouchers if you're a returning visitor. On-site, we'll also have seminars on the latest trend, especially in the tech aspect, so don't miss out. In case you're unable to visit us in Hong Kong, there will also be a virtual expo, a highly efficient way of connecting online buyers with on-site exhibitors, as there will be professional host guided tours to the booth using live chat and technologies which enable real-time dialogue among buyers, hosts, and exhibitors. Moreover, buyers can scan exhibitors' QR code shown by the hosts and visitors and visit suppliers' homepage to exchange contact and learn more about the company that they're offering. So no matter if you're visiting us physically or virtually, do register now to get the latest updates from our exhibition team. Okay, so let's get back to the summit. The summit will have 4 sessions in total. While you're watching live to interact with speakers and other participants, you can also watch the replays of the first 3 sessions of our first 3 sessions on our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Facebook to revisit any interesting content that you may find. If you're watching the summit live, don't hesitate to type in your questions or comment in the live chat. We'll try to have the speakers to address them if time allows. However, the final session, which will be an exclusive roundtable discussion hosted by the PingPong for registered summit participant. If you have already registered for the summit, you should be receiving a Zoom link via email and through the summit Telegram group. Registered participant will also receive an ebook from Global Sources after the summit on tips for sourcing from different locations. Please visit us at globalsources.com/summit for the full agenda and speaker details. In the first session, we'll be filled with knowledge. For a brief overview, we'll have Benjamin from Gamba, Yulia from Zignify, and Clayton from Carbon 6 to discuss about expanding your product lines and Cycle. Mike from PingPong to share everything you need to know about your international supplier payment. Michelle Evans, who's an experienced merchandising executive, to share about digital merchandising. Yulia is an expert in finding the perfect manufacturer. We'll return to talk about product sourcing globally. Then Stephen will tell you how Gamba will help you when you face a new product challenge, insight, and into successful product creation. Throughout the summit, we'll also share promos from verified suppliers handpicked by our local team. So they all have some very interesting product that might help you bring your business to the next level. So don't miss out. And their contact will also be shown on the screen, so you can feel free to contact them when suitable. Okay, so without further ado, let me invite Ben from Gamba, Yulia from Zignify, Clayton from Carbon 6 onto the screen. Let's see. Okay, Yulia, Clayton, and Ben. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, people from everywhere.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so we just had a quick chat just now, and we have someone in Germany, and Clayton is Australia. Ben, where are you?
I'm in the Denver region.
Okay, so we're everywhere, and I see audience from India, Philippines, Jamaica. So we have people from everywhere across all different time zones. It's early for me and it's late for some of you guys. Okay, so okay, let me just tell the audience who you guys are. Okay, so Stephen is the Benjamin is the COO of Gamba with a wide knowledge in product development. Yulia is the CEO and co-founder of Zignify, helping many to do product sourcing worldwide. And then Clayton is the community ambassador at Carbon6, committed to help e-commerce brands reach the highest potential. Okay, so I know all of you guys are very busy people and traveling around quite a lot. And then thank you very much for taking your time to share your knowledge with us. So let's not keep the wait. I'll leave you three to do the expert talk and share your insight about expanding product lines and its cycle, and I'll come back in about 40 minutes.
Awesome.
All
right. Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah, guys. So maybe just to start off with, we kind of talk a little bit about what we do, and then I got some questions that we can all chime in and answer. But Yulia and Benjamin, do you guys want to talk a little bit about what it is, what your company does? Yulia, you can go first.
Always. If a woman doesn't want to talk, I think there is something wrong there, right? Yeah. Hello to you, gentlemen, and hello to everyone who is watching us everywhere in the world. Yeah, my name is Yulia. I am the founder of Zignify Global Product Sourcing. We are a tiny company with around 50 people. We grew to this quantity of our wonderful team members in under 2 years, actually. And all of our team members are women, except my husband. He's the only guy, but you can't really kick out your husband, right? No, he's a wonderful help. In any case, we are a company who helps e-commerce owners, Amazon sellers to find manufacturers across the globe for their products. We look at the processes in a bit of a different way. We ask you, what is your product and what are your USPs? And based on this, we give you a suggestion and an advice in which country across the globe can you actually produce your product. Because, of course, when you're a seller, when you sell over a Shopify store, WooCommerce, or Amazon, you need to make sure that all of the things are taken into consideration. Product design, pricing in terms of manufacturing, delivery, import tax, Trump tax, etc., etc. Yeah, so we help people find the best manufacturers for their product. Of course, at the cheapest prices, because everyone wants everything, with the best quality and, of course, for free, or even better if the manufacturer pays money to you for whatever reason there is. Yeah, okay. I think that's in a nutshell.
Incredible. Thank you. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot more into that soon. And then Ben, do you mind real quick summarizing what Gamba is, just so everybody knows, and then we'll jump into some questions here.
Sure. So great to meet everyone today. My name is Benjamin Hopwood. I'm the COO at Gamba. So I head up our operations team, similar to Yulia's group. We also have teams that are all over the world. Gamba really focuses on that area of making sure, for those of you who have gone through product development, there can be that moment of just like the oh no place where you ended up doing design, you worked on something, you thought this is the differentiator that I really want. You get the design done. That can be quite expensive, as some of you know. And then you move to manufacturing and you find out that it's either not manufacturable, there's something about the design that ends up blowing up your cost or anything along those lines. And so what Gamba does is Gamba really works that full system to look at, for you as an organization, how do you identify what will be the differentiator for your product? And how do you do that in a really cost-effective and inexpensive way within a certain time period? And then in doing that, then working with manufacturers and then designers around the world to ensure success and then ultimately fulfillment. So we have approximately 1,500 manufacturers that we work with globally, And we have over 500 design experts that are within our network to really help you. And so really saying that it's not enough to just be like, for instance, in the apparel business. If you're in the baby apparel side of things, how can you get connected up with the person that's been on that journey before so that you have the highest chance of success as you move forward? But again, very excited to be on today and looking forward to the discussion.
Incredible. Thank you, Ben. Wow. Sounds like you guys have a ton of connections, could help sellers. So thank you both for giving that quick summary. I will real quickly introduce myself. I'm the community ambassador for Carbon 6. Carbon 6 is quite different than Gemba and Zignify. We are a software aggregator, which means that we buy software companies that help people sell online. And specifically for the scope of this conversation, I would say that we do have tools that help with product research, but we do not help with just the things that Yulia and Ben were just talking about, connecting with manufacturers and really, doing that design and trying to find all those right prices. That's not really what we do. Just at the general, keyword research level, help people find products and niches that, are ripe for competition. But I'm excited to get into this, guys. It sounds like you have tons and tons of information to share with people. So I'm going to just fire away some questions, and whoever wants to jump in can. So the first one's pretty straightforward. We're going into Q4 pretty soon here, and everybody loves getting the holiday sales. But with that comes a lot of questions like how much inventory to buy, and it becomes even more complicated if you're doing a product launch, right? How much should you expect? So the question is this: when is the best time of the year to launch a product? Would you recommend launching around this time of year with Q4 so close, or would you recommend staying away from it?
Too late, I'd say. In addition to being a founder at Zignify, I'm also a product owner. We have two brands. The first brand we launched in 2014, and this brand was all made in China. And second brand we launched in August last year. That one was all made in Germany. With the made in Germany, we made it and we're making it for all the Christmas seasons and things like this. That's not a problem. From our experience, we have a lot of customers who produce products globally and sell. Let's take the US market, right? Currently, there are problems with deliveries still. The prices have dropped down, which is a godsend for a lot of sellers. Like they halved last week, and the container prices went from $18,000 to $8,000. So this is wonderful news for the margins and for the people who are selling. But in general, I used to work for a company. They had about 1,700 stores, and they were selling shoes. So the winter collection, they would order in March, right? And the winter collection would arrive at the end of August. So they could sell preemptively, so to speak. Currently, if you're trying to order products from China and have them booked into a warehouse on Amazon or into a 3PL, you can still make it, but it's going to be a very close call unless you're doing air shipping or unless there are no delays at the port in the US, for example. Because in addition to the manufacturing facilities being booked out, there are delays in the delivery. Demands grow, supply, they're not building a lot of new ships. So if you would like to launch a product right now and start selling before Christmas, I would say, I'm sorry, unless you're doing air shipment.
so that was all great advice, but real quick, let's say they do already have the product. Like, they've been working on it, and because of delays in manufacturing or in shipping, for whatever reason, now it's just arrived in the US. Like, would you say that September or October is a good time to launch a product, assuming that all that's already done? And then the follow-up question is, when is the best time to have everything ready to go? What is the best time of the year for people to launch products? Because, that's a question that a lot of sellers have, I think.
I think it's wonderful if they already have a product, if the product is arriving or is about to arrive, it's an awesome opportunity to launch it, depending on the product category. If you're if you're selling your products and it's winter and you're selling garden products, maybe September is not the best time to launch, unless there is something specific that you need to do with the plants during the winter so they grow wonderfully when the spring comes. But in general, of course, a few months before Christmas, before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all of those crazy, wonderful sales that we have across the globe, it's a wonderful opportunity because you're in a perfect test phase to maybe still make some minuscule corrections, but there might be some possibilities to work out some kinks. Maybe put an additional flyer into the packaging so the customer goes back to your website or Amazon or something like this for reviews. Make a video, to make sure that the product not only sells better, but also gives you that the customer gives you positive feedback and feedback in general. So from my side, depending on the product, I would say September is a wonderful time to launch because you have that test phase. Benjamin, what do you think?
Yeah, so we certainly have quite a few clients that are launching in this time period. I think, kind of jumping up to the macro side of things, we had a lot of groups that ended up bringing on lots of inventory. And so as we go into the Black Friday piece, I think you have to be cognizant of the fact that you have a lot of groups that are trying to eliminate inventory right now. And so when you think about your strategy, when you think about how you want to be launching, you just need to know that there's going to be a lot of low cost inventory that's going to be being sold during this time period. I think that the opportunity there is really to say, what is differentiated about your product, especially if you've thought through that, if you're not just doing like a Me Too type of strategy. It can be a really good opportunity. You just need to know that the pricing is going to be significant. Like there may be significant reductions in this time period going forward. As Yulia mentioned, there's a significant amount of pressure during this time. And then there's also seasonality that goes into it. And so this is where groups like Carbon 6 and Gemba and other groups can help you think through on the research side of it. What is the seasonality of your product going to look like? And again, to a certain extent, you don't know what you don't know. But that said, you can get early insights into how this is going to be going for you as a product. The other piece that I would just say is like, if you have already prepared it, that's wonderful going into it. I would say it's interesting though, from a product development standpoint, not just from a sales piece, but then also if you're actually looking on the development side of it, is to say that actually we're in kind of a little bit of a Goldilocks period is what we're seeing with manufacturers. And the reason is because they're starting to ramp up, especially as you go to East Asia and you have the Lunar New Year that starts to hit, manufacturers become slammed. That said, in other areas like India or Central America or South America, they don't face that same issue. And so this can be a period where you can start to get a certain amount of time. But again, as you start to move towards the holidays and in that period, especially in North America and Europe area, like again, you have to know that you're going to get less and less face time, less and less opportunities to really spend time with the development piece of it. And again, but this is part of like the changing aspect of not only the sales that we're seeing this year, but then also as we see manufacturing as changing in terms of where people are manufacturing and the culture that's behind that.
Awesome insights. Thank you, Ben. I think you're spot on. And I'll just add my 2 cents here real quick. And I should have mentioned as well that I am an Amazon seller. I have been for about 5 years. I have a couple of brands. And my thought is that if you do want to launch in Q4 or close to it, there's no problem, but you need to be aware that it's a bit like trial by fire. Yulia, you were talking about all of the things you can learn and get kinks sorted out, I think you said, but and that's exactly right. And also what you can do is quickly run yourself out of inventory. And with the Chinese New Year coming up right behind, if you're using China as your supplier, you need to take that into consideration as far as being able to restock your product if the launch does go well. And I've had launches go so well that I ran out of stock and then needed to relaunch the product, right? And I decided instead of just going with the same ASIN to relaunch under a new ASIN. But there's a lot you can learn during the holidays. But in an ideal launch, you don't run out of stock and if you have a great launch, you have enough inventory to keep that ASIN alive and turn it into a profit stream. But you guys, I think the next natural question here is what you guys were talking about. You were mentioning India and South or Central America. So that's a question I think a lot of people have. I've always sourced my products from China, but I know that I'm going to an India Summit sourcing event in October. So just about 1 month from now. So I hope to learn a lot more about that. And I was in Central America in Mexico City earlier this year for a sourcing event. So I'm starting to broaden my horizons, so to speak, as far as launching products. And I'm sure a lot of sellers out there are doing the same. So can you guys talk a little bit about where you think the future of sourcing products is? Is it always going to be China? I think one of you mentioned that you have like 100 and something different suppliers you work with. My guess is that they're in many different countries. So where should people be sourcing products? And, where is that going in the future?
I'd be happy to jump in here. So when we look at sourcing, I think that the challenging piece is like if we were to rewind the clock back to last year during the summertime, it seemed like everybody and their uncle decided that like Mexico was the place to be if you were sourcing into the US side of things. And so people started flooding in, and we saw lots of big brands move there. The reality of it is that I think for many people, like the overall catalyst behind this, like the real tipping point that we saw was around the logistics. And as Yulia mentioned, like logistics have begun falling. Now, the fact that they're 60% down from the high still means that they're like 2.5 times what they were 3 or 4 years ago. And so like you have to know that. And so whether you're looking at an India or you're looking at like, say, like a Chile, or you're looking at a Poland as an example, there are going to be different markets that you can look at. I think that you just have to be prepared, especially if you prior to this were sourcing out of the China region. I was in China, starting in 2002, so for the very first SARS, and so I kind of remember what it was like. It was a little bit more frontierish, and like it was a little bit tough, and like things like that. Where we see China today is that we see a lot of OEM product that's available. And so you can kind of go and say, hey, I want this. And then if I want to tweak something a little bit, there may be a certain amount of availability for that. What we're seeing in places like India is that we're seeing a lot of cost competition with regards to having good engineering and then also seeing lower cost labor and these things, but it's not as broad of a network. Right. Like the overall amount, they're still growing, like in terms of with materials. But as an example, we had one group that we work with that they had to have a special polyester. And that polyester, it had to be fabricated in India by the mills. They had to come up with a special formulation for it. And once that happened, it unlocked a huge marketplace, not just for that particular manufacturer, but for a lot of other groups that were in the bag space, that now suddenly you had this low cost technical product that could then compete with what was going on in China. And then suddenly a lot of things opened up. Now, the challenge is that you can go to other places, but you need to really know your product a little bit better. And oftentimes you have to have a better tech pack and or drawings in order to get over that place. And so maybe the final comment is just like what we've seen in Mexico is that there's a lot of people courting Mexico manufacturers. And so having a guide, whether that's with a group like Yulia's group or a Gemba or others, having somebody who has an established relationship with that manufacturer can sometimes be the differentiator between you just getting a no bid from a manufacturer and actually getting to the place where they say yes, because of other manufacturing that's going on, we'll also consider you as a potential client.
Wonderful.
Everything
Yulia,
that Benjamin said, but I'm going to add a little bit more terror to this. I've been working in product sourcing for the last 17 years. I spent 12 years living in Asia. I spent 9 years in China. I started coming to China since 1993. I'm a lot older than I look. I think I'm going to be like, in Asia, you see a lady who looks 60 she is 60, but she looks like 25. And then next day she looks like she is 70. So yeah, I'm going to be like this probably. But in any case, we have tons of customers who have started switching from manufacturing in China and Asia to Europe, US, Mexico, and all of those countries actually around 5 to 6 years ago. So the initial concern was that they wanted not a higher quality product, but they wanted additional USPs. And this is what a lot of sellers want right now. Again, it doesn't matter if you sell on Amazon or you have your own e-commerce store. For a lot of people in US especially, it becomes extremely important that they can say, for example, made in US. Made in Mexico sounds still better than made in China, right? When in Europe, we don't need to actually declare, place on the product that it's made in China, made in US, made in Germany. There is no such a law. So as Benjamin rightly stated, China has been built for the last 25 years for speed, for efficiency, for effectiveness. The infrastructure was built on purpose so the factories can connect, the materials can connect. That if you go to one manufacturer who produces a plastic cup, they can also produce a plastic plate, a plastic helicopter, etc., etc., as long as you pay for the mold. If you go to Poland, if you go to Mexico, even if you go to Turkey and you try the same path, it is not going to work. Those factories, they do not yet have the competences, the machinery to look into other directions. So if they produce a plastic cup, they will produce a plastic cup for you. To produce something else out of plastic for them is going to be a lot more complicated, time consuming, a lot of headache for you, and a lot of initial investment for the people who are trying to actually get the product made. In general, we have tons of people who are switching from Asia, from China to Mexico, to South Africa, Poland. It all depends on where you sell. From my standpoint, when we're talking to people, and even for our products that we sell, the first thing we're looking at is this product going for our European market, or is it going for the US market? Is it going to Canada? Because we need to take this into consideration, because every country has its own competences, right? If you want to produce mealworms for chicken feet, there are only so many countries in the world you can go to. You can't say, I'm going to go to Mexico. You can't, because they don't grow mealworms for chicken feet in there. You got to go to Thailand, to China, South Africa, and maybe Netherlands. So you really need to, and as Benjamin rightly said, again, people need to understand their products a little bit more. And they need to be more precise, and they need to have tech packs if it's a product that requires a tech pack, and if they're developing it from scratch. Because we have people come into us and they take a link from Amazon or from some other website, and they say, can I produce this in Mexico? Yes, you can. Potentially, we see that, for example, this product is made out of textiles and it can be done in Mexico or in the surrounding areas. Do you have a tech pack? No, but I still want to produce it. So, and this is, where companies, again, like Gemba, for example, come in, they help, develop the tech packs and maybe do the prototype and et cetera, et cetera. But people need to realize that China is official. Like what I say, China has 100% conversion rate from the initial contact to the point where you can actually order samples. Out of 30 manufacturers we contact, 30 will respond, 29 will provide prices. Whereas in other countries like Mexico, you need to contact at least double the amount of manufacturers to get a few prices. So people need to understand that it's a lot more complicated. They will need to have a lot more patience and a lot more dedicated time for the sourcing process itself, because it's not China. You're not going to get prices within a few hours or within a few minutes. Take a couple of weeks. If you're going to Europe, say goodbye to your summer, because no one in Europe and in summer works, and Mexico and the rest of the countries, they also have their own holidays. So yes, go abroad, you can produce there, but be aware there are caveats. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I think you made some important points talking about competencies and what certain countries can do and manufacturers and what they can't do. So let's just ask the main question here, call a spade is, if you have an incredibly successful product launch and you're dealing with an Indian manufacturer or a Mexican or whatever, can they scale? If I'm thinking about this from a seller's perspective and I want to blow up my store, right? I think this is going to crush and, I want to turn this into an 8-figure business, et cetera, et cetera. Are you in trouble if you're dealing with India? Are you in trouble if you're dealing with Mexico? Or are you okay? And let's keep this answer short because we have a lot more to get through, but yes or no, if you say, hey, you're going to be doing 8 figures, do you have customers right now doing that with Indian manufacturers and with Mexican and with Polish? Is that doable? Yes or no, more or less?
Have a backup factory. So the point is, do not just go find one factory, get a sample from one factory. You need to have at least 2 backups, especially when you go to countries like India and Mexico, because no, it's not necessarily possible that they can scale. You need to know before you produce with them how fast they can scale, and you need to have backup factories. Answers to your questions. And it's better if you go not to become an 8-figure seller, but a 9-figure seller also.
Okay.
Yeah, and to Yulia's point on this, I think that if you're looking at giving more than $5 million a buy to one manufacturer, you really need to look at, even in the China side of things, you really need to look at potentially diversifying your supply chain. And the reason for it is because from a quality standpoint, from a standpoint of costing and kind of, you can be very, very open with them. It's like, I'm going to give 30% to this group and I'm going to give 70% to this group. And it's like, which one do you want to be? And you can really work different suppliers in different ways. But the bottom line issue is that when you go to these other countries, you need to know that it's developing. But the second part is that a lot of times the best places to go to, in India as an example, will be highly vertically integrated. As such, so like as an example, like one of our clients, they're at a manufacturing group that does $5 billion in sales. So like for them to be, an 8-figure number, it's good, kind of, but like even for that group, it's kind of a small potatoes type of thing. Where
is that company in China?
No, this is in India.
India. So, okay, great. So like these do exist.
Oh yeah, and I mean in Mexico and other places, I think that the key challenge there, and just I'll be brief here, is that a lot of times there's just less manufacturers in that, like they don't have as deep of a bench, but you're still going to find 2 to 3 manufacturers in each one of these countries. That's generally quite large. The question is can you get onto their dance card in terms of doing your product there? And they may have requirements that, again, as mentioned before, like you can't just go and kind of say, well, like I want this, I want that. It's going to be, here's my drawings. They're going to look at it. They're going to look at your volume. If you're doing over $1 million a buy, you're going to get a certain, seat at the table. Even if you're here in the US, like if you wanted to go to like a Flextronics and you gave them $10 million a buy, like you're going to get at least heard. So I think that it's definitely possible, but it's more a question of like, do you want to do that? Is it better to go ahead and start to dual or even triple source it?
Great. I think those were some great suggestions. And just so you guys know, I'm kind of playing the interviewer here, right? So like I've heard these things before in a lot of cases, but I'm learning too from you guys. Great idea to get multiple
Can
suppliers.
I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you? Because Benjamin mentioned certain value or certain volumes of the customers, how much they're willing to put into manufacturing and stuff like this. And this the numbers that he's saying are good, and we have tons of customers like this and bigger and smaller as well. So the point, I think, what I want to say is, even if you're a smaller seller, you can still start with India and other countries as well, because there are smaller manufacturers there who can provide smaller MOQs, and fit with your volume and for trial order and stuff like this. So it's not only limited to the big guys who can go to those countries, but to smaller as well, because we got tons of those. And so it's possible for all sorts, whether you're big or small. So
yeah, and I probably skewed the conversation talking about like 8-figure sellers. We know that probably a lot of people watching are just getting started, so that's a great point. And that's awesome to know that they can get involved in India and Mexico. And like Yulia was saying, there's competencies for each country, so it's going to depend on your products for sure. I got a question, just out of curiosity. If you guys, like, I'm sure you see you guys get to do some cool stuff. You get to see like an idea turn into a product, right? People come to you with, I'm sure, inventions, new ideas. And the interesting part of like coming from Carbon 6, what I often tell people is that a lot of times people look to prove their model, or they'll copycat, right? Hey, this product's selling well. I think I can compete. I can modify it a little bit. I can do this, or make my images better, or my listing better, or I can advertise better. And they're competing in niches that already exist, which is great. But in a lot of times you can do keyword research to figure out that there's a demand before there's like proper amount of product in the marketplace. If you could, I think of a couple examples like fidget spinners, right? If you could have been in front on fidget spinners, like there was a lot of search volume because it was blowing up on TikTok and other places or wherever, before there was the right amount of product. Another one I think of always is the, whenever the solar eclipse was coming over the United States, like there was not a huge amount of those glasses that people were using to cover their eyes until like, a month beforehand, but you could see that a lot of search volume was there. So there are like great examples where, the demand is already there, but the product isn't. And that's like a fantastic opportunity to reach out to people like Yulia and Ben and say, hey, I'm seeing this demand increase, but there's like not the right product out there. And here's my idea. But on the flip side of that, I'm sure there are people that often try to enter into specific niches and it's like very high failure rate. Do you guys at all help? Do you just help with manufacturing and sourcing no matter what the client wants? Or do you ever steer them like away from products that are like unlikely to succeed? Do you do any like coaching, or do you simply just like follow the, the directions that they give you?
From my perspective, we treat all the customers like babies for their own good, simply for the reason that you don't know how much the person knows. They might have gone through some courses, and there are tons of wonderful courses online and coaches and this and that. But you need to treat them like babies to understand where they're at, where they want to go. And we need to understand, are they growing? Are they starting the business in order to sell it, to flip it within a few years, just make some money and go away? Or are they nurturing and developing a brand? So all of those details, for sure, you need to know. And from our perspective, when we see the customer has a product that maybe has gone past its prime time, we say, you know what, this was a good idea 5 years ago. Garlic press, right? Everyone who sells on Amazon knows about garlic press. So something like garlic press, I wouldn't go with right now. We personally, of course, you need to tell people, because we, like me and Benjamin, we have the experience, we have the expertise. And sometimes it's the simplest household. People overthink. I need to find this perfect Amazon product that doesn't exist out there. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's the product that every household already has, but no one thinks about it. So not many people actually sell it, like bolts and plugs for bathtub and things like this. So of course you need to guide people through. Otherwise, you're basically not doing your job.
I learned a long time ago that the product doesn't have to be sexy to make money. Some of my best sellers are things I would never thought I was going to sell. Ben, do you have anything to add in there, or did Yulia crush that question?
Well, she crushed it. I'll go ahead and add a little bit in, which is just that as an example for Gemba, we have a product opportunity report that we do. And so part of our approach to this is that, one, you need to find an inexpensive way to test out, right? So like there are not many people out there saying, how do I drop $100,000 on development just because I want to do that? What we're seeing out there, especially with the way the economy is and then other things happening, is people are saying, how do I do this in a fast and inexpensive way? How do I test with my pennies and then follow with my dollars? So part of how we do that is that we'll actually go through and work with you to look at the products that are within your brand and to say, of those products, what is going on with market saturation, what's happening on a number of different factors there, and then where are the opportunities in the market compared to some of the other competitors. But then going beyond that and then saying, once you've identified that, part of what's hard as a small business entrepreneur or others, or even as just a product brand manager, is you can get lock on. And on one side, we hear everything that's great about lock on, where it's like, nobody believed me. I was going to do this. I was going to get into it. But the challenge can be like, ultimately, how can you move towards your vision, but to get there in a way that you actually kind of tested it as you went along? Because I think that for every big success that's out there, there's many failures that happen, and many times it happens because somebody ended up trying to jump too far on it. That's not to say that you don't want to do the jump, but you want to start to test it out and to say, what's actually in the market? Like, what can I get from a manufacturer to test out these different areas? In engineering with prototyping, what you find is that oftentimes you'll prototype different functionality in a more complex product. You can do the same thing on sales in terms of looking at how things sell into it. And then ultimately, if you know that you're kind of moving in that direction, like you can then do a fast pivot and or a fast follow-up to a product where you said, this product doesn't have every single piece of functionality, but it has a lot of it. I'm going to go with that product initially to go ahead and make that initial jump, but you've already got in your mind where you're going. And I think, the final piece to it is just, you've got to know how this new product's going to fit in your overall lineup. And that can be the hard thing, which is just that, what will that do when it's paired up with an additional product, right? Like for your brand, what does that do? How do you sell? Are you the type of person that has just like a fan base that's like a rabid fan base that's around it and a lot of community action that happens around it? That will be a different type of product than, for instance, like as an example, sometimes people are just looking for that hole in the market or the place that like people, as you've mentioned, Clayton, they've kind of moved on from, and there's been a lot of stagnation in it. And so even a small little piece of innovation in a very stagnant market can be helpful, but you also need to know, as an example, in certain safety critical products, it may be stagnant in part because it's hard, and that failure is met with a lot of adversity. And so again, this is where if you can go in with a bit of reporting, go in, find manufacturers that can help you test your thesis, and then ultimately go forward with your overall roadmap, that we've seen a lot of success.
Awesome. Tons of value there. I love that answer.
And don't go for perfection, if I might add, because the problem with a lot of customers, and honestly, I find this from men more from women. I don't know why. I want this perfect. No, even during the launch phase, I want perfection coming out of everywhere. And this sometimes can delay the product launch by months, not by weeks, but by months. So if you found something, if you want to go ahead with this, we have customers who want to produce only, let's say, in Germany, or in Turkey, or in Poland. But the product is more complicated in development, but they want to launch as soon as possible. Then we suggest a bit of a different path. We say, let's go to China, let's quickly do the product. You start selling. If it sells, I know where we can produce it in Europe or in Mexico, etc., because this way you will be able to launch faster, and also don't go for perfection. You will be changing your product throughout the years. Anyone who sells on Amazon knows that every maybe 3 or 4 or 6 months you start hating your Amazon photos, and you want to tweak this and tweak that.
Absolutely.
And your A+ content, and the same goes for your product. So it is a never-ending process. So when you feel you're kind of at 90%, I would suggest go ahead, because otherwise I've seen people, but it's still not perfect. And 2 years later, they still haven't launched. So you either need to take that step, or you're going to be stuck.
Wonderful. So what I'm hearing, just the original question to summarize that was, would you guys tell people to stay away from like bad products? The answer was yes, you both do. Yep. Benjamin mentioned a product opportunity report. And on top of that, they're saying, if you find a good product, it doesn't have to be perfect. Be willing to test the market, know that you're going to evolve over time, but make sure that keyword research and everything else can become antiquated. It can get old. So you can pass the like golden time to launch a product. So don't spend forever trying to tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak. When you have an opportunity and you value it, and you think, and Ben and Yulia tell you, yes, this looks good, then, jump before the opportunity passes. So thank you guys. That was great. Also, I'm not sure if you guys are commenting at all. I'm not seeing a ton of comments, but I would love to hear where you guys are sourcing products from. If we have any viewers that would like to comment, and any questions you would like Yulia and Benjamin to answer here. But great work, guys. Another question for you is, from concept to materialization, meaning like, okay, I have this idea, and I'm just now starting to investigate whether I want to sell it on Shopify or Amazon or Walmart or wherever. I have this idea. Obviously, you need to do research, marketplace research, etc. But at what point do you say, okay, I need to get the manufacturer involved? And at the risk of allowing too long of answers, I think we'll put a second one in there, and that is, when you start dealing with manufacturers, what are the most important parts to get right? What do you need to negotiate? So number one, when do you involve a manufacturer, and when do you say, hey, it's too early? And then when you get to that manufacturer, what do you need to get right with them?
From our perspective, we need to involve them as soon as possible, simply for the reason, because you need to verify if your idea is workable. You need to see if you're going to make margin, if you're going to have good, not just margins, but good margins or not. So from our side, what we usually do is verification stage. We work for a few hours to see. You might not even have your exact product. You might not even have your exact tech pack, but you can take something similar that's already on the market. And based on this, get kind of estimated pricing, and then estimated shipping prices, etc. What will be the import tax? Will there be a Trump tax? So VAT and all of those things, because you need to see what your landed cost will be, and then you start working out your marketing costs, PPC, and all of those things. So we try to, when our customers come to us, some of them come just for the verification stage. We have a guy, he's like 22 years old. He's amazing. He comes with 50 products per month. Do the verification stage, and out of this he chooses maybe 5 that he wants to go ahead with, and he does. And the rest, he's like, nope, no margin, goodbye. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that when you're working in this space, there's a balance point here with the manufacturers, because on one side you've got to understand that many like what's the motivation for the manufacturer? Oftentimes what they're looking for is going to be high volume, they're going to be looking for bigger orders, these types of things. But there's a lot of understanding that's locked up in those four walls of those manufacturing units. What is the base materials that they're using? What's out there? What's trending in the market in terms of what they're seeing with raw material inventories and these types of things, where they're certainly quite far upstream. And so the challenge oftentimes is that when groups, what we see is that groups try and differentiate their product, or they're trying to find a market opportunity. They'll go out and they'll talk to a designer, or they'll talk to somebody who can help them to visualize what they want. And the problem is that you can see something that you like, but that does not connect with reality. And that the longer you spend without knowing that, you're just wasting time. So it's a great example of somebody who's really looking at, to me, testing with pennies and following with dollars to say, I may need 50 products. I may have to winnow down 90% of all of my ideas, but doing that in such a way to say that they have a process and they have partners that they work with to where it's a commercialization process, right? This isn't just like lightning striking once. As an organization and as a brand, you really need to start thinking through kind of the growing up piece, which is like, and if you're going to sell whether you're selling or you're going to keep your business, that's the commercialization piece that you need to be able to do this over and over and over again. Amazon is especially rigorous in this way. But that said, is that whether you're looking at lean manufacturing, you're looking at things on the software side in terms of how does software get developed, everyone will tell you the most opportunity you have for change is at the very beginning. And then as a product goes on, like if you've got design invested in really even on the manufacturing side, that your options become less and less. And so getting that initial information is critical. Now, the reason why I say you have to balance this is because a good manufacturing partner, you can ask some questions, but you will run out of goodwill quite rapidly if you continue to ask the questions in such a way that just wastes their time. And so this is where understanding how much to ask to get you to the go, no go stage, using that in a smart way, and then making sure that you have multiple manufacturers that you can ask this of. And then realizing you're not going to get 4 or 5 quotes super early in the process. Start with one group, build up some goodwill, understand where they're taking you. You can develop in a big way. And then as mentioned, when you're ready for for instance, the next launch on the product, then you have enough information where you can start to split that out among many manufacturers.
Love it. I do believe that Ben actually has to hop a little bit early from our meeting. So I do want to ask I think an important question that normally I would wait until the end, and I'll let Ben answer it first. And it's kind of like most of my questions, they're more than one piece to it, but it's sort of this: what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to sellers for sourcing and finding products? And with that, I would prompt you to think about who you see. Yulia has mentioned people that she's worked with and said, the men tend to have to strive for perfection, when in reality they should just be testing the market right now. So who do you see succeed, sort of? And then what would be the number one piece of advice? What is the common trait between the people that are succeeding and the people that are failing? However you want to answer that makes sense. So go ahead, Ben.
Certainly. So I would say that the number one piece of advice I would give is about discipline. For you as an organization, discipline is really, really important, and coming together with other partners around you to where you need to know where your strengths are, but you also need to understand where your weaknesses are, and then building up a good team around you. It's something that we see in really, really good organizations, especially at the very beginning. And becoming a bigger organization doesn't necessarily mean adding on a lot of other employees internally. We've seen some groups that have grown to those 8 or 9 figure types of companies, and they have 5 to 15 people in them. That is possible. It's not easy, but again, it's about that discipline piece of really following it up. And kind of the secondary piece to this is really, I think, thinking about what does commercialization look like? How do you do this in such a way that it's not just going to be a one and done type of thing, but that you have multiple different opportunities that are running? And so oftentimes how we look at it is we look at, if you have a pillar product, okay, a hero product, how can you begin to expand a brand around that in an inexpensive way, in a very quick way to doing that? But then as you start to grow up those additional products that are around it, identifying where the next hero products are. And that's going to require a different approach than just simply doing a small change. You need to be ready for a number of fast iterations on your product. And then you need to have something in the pipe where it's like, this is going to be a bigger change. And so part of doing that, I think, is just having the discipline to identifying those products. Again, we see a lot of like going back and forth where it's like, what's the latest crazy thing that we're going to be doing? But oftentimes the product owners that I see do the best are the ones that are saying, hey, we're going to focus on this area. We're going to understand it, but then we're going to build the brand around it. And then once they've done that, they've established that, they're starting the next piece. But again, there's a repeatability to it that I think that sometimes groups miss, that again, it requires discipline to do it. So that would be the biggest thing that I would say. And then of course, in addition, you need to know your environment. The macroeconomics of what's going on are very, very important. When the tide goes out, you need to know it. And when the tide's coming in, you need to know it as well. So those are just two pieces that I would say.
Yeah. So summarize what I'm hearing is be flexible, and well researched. But that goes into also having the right team in place. I'm hearing have the right team in place and have a long-term vision. Understand that, hey, you're going to start here and you'll grow out from there, but, really drill down and know your marketplace extremely well. And I think that all comes back to putting the right people in place. To your point, going to 8 and 9 figure sellers with, 15 people in place is not easy to do, but it can be done if you have the right people in place. So I think that was a great answer. I'm not sure if you have to jump right now, Ben, but if you do, that's okay. And we super appreciate you jumping on and giving us all the insight. And hopefully, some people check out Gimba and I'm sure that you put the right team in place and you guys have a lot of great services to offer for people that are looking to create and source and have successful products.
Well, thank you much. Really enjoyed the time.
All right, Ben, take care. All right. Awesome. So then there were two. Yulia, same question for you. What do you see people that are succeeding have the most in common? And what do you think is like the number one piece of advice that you would give to people looking to create profitable products online?
I'm going to go a little bit more down to earth and towards the people who are maybe just starting out and don't have so much experience yet. You were present at in Sydney at the 1000 Seller Fest. I was present there as well. I've met quite a few people, Australian sellers, who are just starting out and they're using a lot of courses and stuff like this. And some of them, they've been doing those things for a year or two. And the biggest problem in the beginning is the perseverance and the understanding how much actually time, energy, and effort one needs to put into the work in order to create a brand, find a product, launch it, and money as well. So the first thing is you need to understand that there needs to be perseverance and you need to stay on track and you need to push through. A lot of people have excuses like I heard, it's a good excuse. Oh, I have a family vacation, or this happened, we moved house, etc., etc. When my husband was starting out on Amazon, we used to live we just moved from China to Singapore. He had a full-time corporate job, and he was sitting at 1 o'clock in the morning. And this was 2014. There were no awesome services like Carbon 6, for example, offers, that automate the system. There was nothing. He was sitting there. He had 100 tabs open, and he was writing the emails to the customers, asking for feedback and stuff like this, all by hand. So you need to understand that this is a lot of work, and you can't have excuses of not doing it. In the beginning, you will need to invest a lot of time before you start hiring a team. And later on, when it picks up, you need to learn to delegate and hire a team. That's for sure. I think another important point to mention is how much psychological pressure this will be on you, and that you need a mastermind. You need people who are in the same boat as you are. So again, meetings like, virtual summits like this, meetups in your city with other sellers, whether it's drop shippers or it's Amazon sellers, those are awesome ways of keeping yourself motivated and staying on track. What is the combination, the perfect combination of being a successful seller? You know what? I know some guys who bought a product for $3 and they were selling it for $60 and they sold to one of the aggregators for millions. And I know others who have and that person didn't have so much knowledge, in Amazon. And then I know others who have extreme knowledge and some of their products are completely unsuccessful. This happens as well. But to stay on track, to push through, to listen to others, and to try to get as much knowledge in as possible from others as well. Those would be the main things. Be open. If someone criticizes you, or not criticizes, but expresses their opinion, it doesn't mean they're criticizing you. It means they're sharing their opinion. And it's important to take that in as well. Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, I think you guys had similar answers, you and Ben, talking about the right teams, but you took it a step further and said you need to have like the right communities around you, the right people that help you, and whether or not they're giving you positive or negative feedback, take that and learn from it. I would be remiss if I didn't say that Carbon 6 has a community. If you go to carbon6.io, there's a Facebook group that you can join there and ask questions and just, connect. You do have to fill out an application, but I'm the community ambassador and I would love to approve you to come into that community. And there's a lot to learn. But to your point, Yulia, we just were both in Australia and there was a wonderful meetup, one of the first of its types in the eastern part of the world. And there were so many great people there helping each other, communicating. So if you can make it to an in-person event, try to do it. I mean, it's a great value add. If you can't, start to get into those online masterminds and those communities, because chances are somebody's gone down the same path that you have before, and you should take advantage of their knowledge and give back when you can. Also, Carbon 6 has a in-person meetup. It's called Q4kickoff.com that we're doing in Miami, and we hope to have a lot of knowledge sharing there as well. So Q4kickoff.com if you're interested in that. I have quite a few more questions here. We have about 9 minutes left, so we'll just get through as many as we can. So here it is. What is the usual problem between product designers and manufacturers, and what's the solution? So what do you see most often like fall apart between product designers and manufacturers, and how do you overcome that?
Lack of communication, language barrier. Again, if you found manufacturers yourself, you are in touch with them and you can work with them. But a lot of sourcing companies, they don't provide that opportunity. They usually hide the lists, they hide the manufacturers. So you can't actually talk to the manufacturer. So you have this person in the middle, and this is where the broken phone starts and the communication breaks down. We, for example, we say we love when our customers talk to the potential manufacturers. We always get everyone in touch, because it helps speed up the process and speed up efficiency. So, and you always need to make sure that you have people on your team who speak the local language, right? If you're trying to go to Mexico and you don't speak Spanish, you're going to have some troubles. And the same goes for Germany, for Poland, for Turkey is actually quite okay with English, but Poland or France. I mean, we had customers who make about 30 million revenue in, through Amazon. And we were looking for manufacturers for them. And some French manufacturers said, "I'm sorry, I do not speak English. Goodbye." I'm like, okay, you just lost a kind of, a lot of millions of euros, but fine. So yes, the biggest breakdown is the communication. And
that's like fantastic advice. And I've heard the same thing. I've had struggles with that myself in my business, and extremely important, even from a negotiating standpoint, right? If you're speaking with somebody in Mandarin, they're more likely to be able to like quickly go back and forth and figure out ways to negotiate. Yeah. Yes, 100%. So fantastic advice. And I love what you said about the fact that you're very transparent, right? I've had people that said they could source products from me in the past, but I hated that I wasn't going to know who my supplier was, and not be able to communicate with them on my own. You put a lot of trust in that person, and it's sort of like it's just not a fun feeling. And I love that you're like, yeah, there's complete transparency here and openness. I think that's so great. And I didn't even know that about Zignify. So really, really,
you need to give control to your customers. Look, the point being is, because we're sellers ourselves, I want to give a service that I would use myself. For example, working on commission as a sourcing agent. Nope, I don't like that. So that's not what we're offering. For example, we're offering an hourly base. You just pay per hour and that's it. And I think it's extremely important if the customer is involved into the development process, because it does, like you said, you're not selling sexy products, but you still have a connection towards them. And if a customer has a connection towards sexy or unsexy products, they're more likely to push on different fronts, not only on PPC to try and sell the products, but maybe start a TikTok, maybe get influencers, maybe this and that. So when you're involved with the product, when you have that feel, you will try to sell it better. You will try to grow it better because you feel like it's kind of your baby. Maybe it's a bad comparison, but that's how you feel. That's how we feel with our product. It's our babies. The second brand that took us 8 months to develop from the moment we started to the point that we launched. And we're experienced in sourcing and PPC and Amazon and everything. Still.
Absolutely. All right, great. So, and you might have already answered this, but maybe you can add something else to it. So, why should people not just jump on Alibaba? The first products I sourced, I just went on Alibaba. I found them myself. Now, you mentioned a really good point already, which is, the communication can break down very quickly. I muddled through it. A lot of people have and figured out how to go ahead and get products created. Only later to find out that, like, after I launched my product, I would get reached out to by other manufacturers saying, what are you paying right now? What is the deal? Like, I can do higher quality, I can do a better price. And sure enough, I ended up switching suppliers and the quality was better. The price was better. And so that comes like right up to like the fact that I didn't negotiate well, or I didn't understand the market well. And probably part of that was a communication breakdown and the fact that I wasn't speaking Mandarin, or, we weren't talking on the phone, that we're just texting back and forth. So I'm kind of giving you the answer with,
I was going to say, you kind of answered your own question.
So I just didn't know if you had anything else to add. Is there anything else where you would say, hey, it's much better to use, professional services to help you find products to source outside of just the communication part?
Look, there is always a trade-off. If you value your time, you will hire an expert. It's as easy as that. My point is, I think when you're a complete newbie and you're just launching your first product, I always say, go and try to do sourcing yourself. You will see how complicated this is. You will see what are the biggest, the most irritating things about it. What can you do, what you cannot do. Sometimes you will succeed and it will be amazing during usually the sample process. Then the mass production comes, and this is where it becomes trouble. So I always say to the newbies, go and test it out yourself. And then they come running back to us, because they see that whatever they can do in 3 months and spend 150 hours, we can do in 10 or 20. So I'm not saying you can go to Alibaba, or the Yaoliu Papa, the Chinese version, right? They also have wonderful manufacturers in there, but you need to verify them. If they have a pretty star or a pretty badge on the Alibaba, it doesn't completely make it a safe manufacturer. I give you an example. We have a customer who came to us after he found a manufacturer for himself. They had an extremely successful Kickstarter campaign. They sold like 20,000 pieces. They started producing with the manufacturer. We came in at the stage where we were doing quality control and shipping. Half of it was for throwing out. Then we started checking out the manufacturer, and it turned out the manufacturer is being chased by the government because they own a lot of money to the government. They have no liquidity, etc., etc. Currently, we called the police 3 times already, and we have engaged a lawyer to try and follow that factory. So this is something that when you don't know the local customs traditions, you don't have the local connections, you won't be able to check out and verify the manufacturers yourself. And as good of a job that Alibaba might do, it's not enough. We do the same thing if we go to Turkey or to Mexico. You always need to verify manufacturers. So yes, local language, local traditions. Give you an example of the UAE. In Dubai, up until a few months ago, Friday was a day off. And a lot of people were like, oh, but today is Friday. Can you get us the prices for the perfumes? I'm like, actually, they have a day off. What do you mean? Because, it's a culture, it's tradition. Now they changed this. But we must know all of those things. You, as a person who wants to purchase the products, you need to know and understand not only the local language and what currency they're actually using, but cultures and traditions. When are the days off? What does this entail for you? Like you were talking, and Benjamin was talking about the Chinese New Year and all of those holidays. Mm-hmm. So yeah, mindset. If someone is calling you dear or darling, they might not mean it in the same way that it's meant in your country, and you just need to smile and say, okay. I mean, I lived in China for 9 years. Some of my friends were telling me, "Oh, you're fat." I'm like, okay, thank you. But it's culture, and we need to understand those points. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you made a really good point too about like quality control inspection, right? I know that myself, I've had quality go up and down, and I've saved myself a lot of headaches by making sure that I was getting quality control inspection at every point. And, not only are you understanding the culture, but you have people that are speaking the language to better negotiate on behalf of your clients. And you just offer, like you said, if you value your time and you want to get it right. I have done a lot of my own sourcing, and I've paid for it. Like I've paid for it with mistakes, right? you guys can avoid 99% of those mistakes for people. And I think that's,
but you also
that's,
gain knowledge, and that knowledge is important. So in my opinion, whatever you do, you should gain at least some knowledge, some basic understanding. And if you don't want to do things from the start on your own, and you're hiring a sourcing agent or agency or development one, ask them those questions, because it's important for personal development. It's important to get oneself out of the comfort zone. We need to learn things we don't want to learn, we're afraid of, we're scared of. Otherwise, we're not going to move. And the same story with
100%.
launching the products. Yeah,
100%. Like if you're not in this business to learn, like get out of it, right? You got to learn something on every step of the way. You can't just hire somebody to do every single thing. And if you do, you might not, you're not asking the right questions. You're not hiring the right people. If you have at least a general base of knowledge, then you can make smart decisions from there, and make sure that the people that you are hiring are doing a great job for you. Well, Yulia, we are at the end of our time. I don't know if there's any one last plug you want to make or anything you'd like to say, but I just want to say I super enjoyed my time with you and Ben. I learned a lot. I hope the people watching did as well. Any last minute comment that you'd like to make?
Don't give up. To the people who are at the crossroads, who might have lost their motivation, I've met a few of those in Australia and in Germany.
I did as well.
Don't lose your motivation. If you do, try to find people who are in the same boat as you are, or they've been through the same things. Again, tons of groups out there, like yourself with the Carbon 6. Stay on top of it, and things will work out. You might not see the light at the end of the tunnel right now, but like my mom used to say, everything what's done is done for the best. And again, we need to go through some pains in order to get to the stage that we're at. So don't give up. There's a lot of us in the same boat, and we're in all of this kind of together, even though we're separate.
I love that.
And things will
I love
get
that.
better.
You gave me fuzzy, warm feelings. I love it. Thank you, Yulia. But no, it's true. And reach out to those communities, get that knowledge base, and continue to learn. Get to in-person events. If you can't do that, join masterminds, get on virtual communities. And Yulia, great advice all around. I think that's about it. I think Karen might jump back in. Here she is.
Yeah,
Perfect
I'm
timing.
back in. Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to fix my light here. It looks really weird for some reason.
You look great. You look great.
Anyways, thank you for the very interesting sharings. Talk about physical events. I have to remind everybody again that our physical show will be returning on October 11th to 14th, and then you can meet suppliers there. We have already verified them, and then of course you can verify them yourself on the ground. So for those that are And then I had another point, but I forgot it already. Anyways, thank you very much, Yulia and Clayton, and Ben, who has already left. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. For those that are interested in Gamba, Zignify, and Carbon 6, can go to their website showing at the bottom of the screen right now. And then once again, thank you for joining us. We'll see Yulia again for her sharing on global product sourcing in about an hour, then followed by Stephen's sharing on Gamba's offering. Thank you very much, Clayton and Yulia. See you guys around.
Thank you as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, before we move on to the next presentation, let's watch a couple promos from our from the suppliers that we have picked out from our local teams. So let's see here.
Jiangman Audio Visual Electronics Company Limited, founded in 2006, is located in Jiangmen City, the western part of the vibrant Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, GBA. With an area of 11,800 square meters, the company has been focusing on the development, production, and sales of car audio, motorcycle audio, intelligent home audio, outdoor riding electronic equipment, and speakers for many years. His brands PureVox and AEST are trusted and recognized by European and American countries. Over the past few years, the company has invested nearly 10 million yuan in research and development. It develops more than 10 new products every year and has accumulated 105 authorized patent technologies, including 6 invention patents and 44 utility model patents. At the same time, the company also has the mold development, injection molding, SMT, assembly and testing products inspection process, such as complete manufacturing process capability, equipped with latest Samsung SMT placement machine, automatic soldering robots, 8 assembly production line, and other production equipment. as well as the AOI automatic optical detector, LMS audio test systems, precision salt spray testing machine, high and low temperature testing machine, 3D printers, a large number of electrical laboratory testing instruments and equipment, annual production capacity of 2.4 million sets. Audio Visio has established a perfect standardized management system for design, research and development, test, experiment, and production, and passed the ISO 9001-2015 Quality Management System certification. In 2019, it passed the IATF 16949-2016 Quality Management System certification with higher standards and more professional automobile industry. Some products have obtained FCC, CE, ROSE, and 3C certification certificates.
Wouldn't it be great if you could take your smartphone and attach it to your bike?
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
And connect it so it wouldn't fall off.
Connected successfully.
You could listen to your playlist on a high-quality Bluetooth speaker, or easily answer your phone with the push of a button. You could use your GPS to see and hear turn-by-turn directions, and use all of your apps. Wouldn't it be great if you could use it all day without worrying about your battery? Yeah, and all night.
Shenzhen Sungpo High-Tech Electronic Company Limited from 2011 holds the controlling share 100% for Dongguan Sungpo Industrial Company Limited. Sungpo is focusing on R&D and manufacturing fitness and beauty personal care products. The main products in good quality are massage guns that produce capacity reached 6,000 per day. Sungpo provides one-stop services ID or structure designing, software development, mold opening, and manufacturing were approved by lots of famous customers abroad. Their products are related to 5 elements: sound as ultrasonic beauty devices, light as far infrared and light photon skincare devices, electric or electronic as massage gun and other massage products, heat as heated clothing, and magnetism. For all those above products, Sungpo has mature technology already. Located in Dongguan City in China, Sungpo, owned with professional research and development team of 9 rich experienced engineers, 6,000 square meters factories, 6 production lines, more than 120 employees. Sungpo has got full certifications of CE, ROSE, FCC, UN 38.3, MSDS for the products, and owned with dozens of patents applied from China, the United States, and Europe. The factory has been approved by BSCI and ISO 9001. In the willingness of bring healthy life with high technology and fast manufacturing, Sungpo is devoted to creating an easier, healthy, and beautiful lifestyle to all customers.
Hello, dear customers. Good day. As you see above, Sungpo is willing to offer to you a factory which supports you good quality products with OEM and ODM. If you have good idea of the products and you want to have the factory to support you OEM or ODM, please just contact with us. Join us. Thank you.
Oops, I just added Mike wrongly. Okay. Anyways, okay, since we have a very packed session today, let's move on to our next presentation. We're just talking about product development and finding the right manufacturers around the world during the panel. And now we will need to learn how to settle the monetary issue with your supplier. Up next, we'll have Michael from PingPong to talk about everything you need to know about your international supplier payment. Mike has over 8 years of experience in the payment and fintech space and has a proven track record of success with growing clients' account, making their lives simpler. He'll be sharing with you on how you can be more efficient with your supplier payment and also when doing international transaction. Okay, so let's have Mike onto the screen now. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Karen, how are you? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah, I can hear you. So how are you?
I'm doing really good. How about you? It's been a busy time for you here. I've been watching. Looks like it's been very successful so far.
Yes, we just had the kickoff panel, and then we'll have a few more sessions coming up. I guess I'll see you quite a few times during the summit because PingPong is our platinum sponsor, and then it's really important to learn more about how to do the monetary issues, how to solve the monetary issues of suppliers now, because there's a lot of like currency control around the world. The exchange rate is going crazy. Yeah, so I won't hold your time. So without further ado, I'll pass the stage to you. Let me add your slide to the screen first.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'll remove myself and I'll pop back in when I see questions from the audience or when it's almost time.
Perfect. That works for me, Karen. I appreciate it. Thank you. Awesome. I guess as Karen kind of introduced me there, my name is Mike Divins. I'm a sales director here at PingPong Global Payments. Been in the payment space, as Karen said, for just about 8 years, and really excited to get the time to speak to everybody here today. So with this presentation, really looking to kind of just provide some more insight on navigating suppliers and sourcing challenges, as you can see on the screen for my first slide. Of course, as Karen said, if there are any questions, the chat, please chime in. Happy to answer anything. And of course, don't hesitate to ask. So looking forward to a great session here. So I'll start and just kind of kick over the agenda. A little bit of a market overview. So kind of touching on some of the things that other folks have kind of gone over. Some challenges in the space with obviously sourcing and then supplier payments, which PingPong is a specialist in. And then as well too some of the best practices that we've seen in the space. So we'll go ahead and jump into the market overview here first. This slide's a little bit of a kind of a high level of supplier payments in numbers from what we've seen. Going from left to right here, the US kind of imported about 14.5% globally of everything that was imported into the US specifically. So that was about 11.1 trillion just from the US side alone. Totally, the global market of the TPV or the GDV was about 28.5 trillion. So you can see kind of the US's footprint within that space globally. And something that kind of stood out to me was on the next slide, a lot of those different sections that all of this, money and kind of where it comes from, along with some of the challenges that other folks have seen. So moving on to the fifth slide here, this is essentially just kind of showing some of the total value of those US imports that make up that 11.1 trillion that I highlighted on my last slide. I think a couple of these that stood out to me were obviously the other business services piece. I think it was $1.1 trillion, which is an astronomical number. I don't think when you're typically speaking about sourcing or suppliers or payments for that matter, I don't think sourcing is something that generally comes to the top of people's mind, with business services being one of those, right? So I think in our sector, we've seen a lot of folks within that space, whether it be from language services, whether it be for development services, background IT work, outsourced services. There's been a lot of kind of traction in that space. And then as well too, when you look at the graph here, you'll see kind of some of the familiar faces with consumer goods being in there. I think it's 2.5 trillion. You'll see the automotive space, which obviously has a large representation there. Capital goods as well too. So you'll see most of those known players in the space, so to speak. But I think one thing that really stood out to me was kind of that other business service sector, which we've had a lot of traction in. And it's been a very successful area for us to kind of work with and expand our services within that sector. Moving to the next slide here, and I apologize, the font doesn't look great, but our largest sectors that we've seen so far within PingPong from a payment standpoint have really been language services, as I mentioned earlier. So whether it be folks that are looking to have documents translated, whether it's, agencies that are working within, the educational space that are having curriculum, or, things that are being translated. Those have been kind of a very key factor for us in making folks being able to find people that can do that work for them, and then easily pay them. So and know that it's going to a trusted source. So that's been an area that we've been extremely successful in. Distributors is number 2 on the list there, and wholesalers. Not lumping those in together, but very much the same in regards to trying to find the correct distributor to work with, somebody that's reputable, somebody that you're able to communicate with, somebody that you're able to actually have kind of that business relationship with. Distributors is an area where we've had a lot of success, and then as well to the wholesale side of things. So working with clients that are trying to find wholesale products, trying to find that area to be able to comfortably work with those wholesalers. And then as well too, retail has been a very good avenue for us with, as I said on that last slide, toys, furniture, sporting goods, a huge category. Lots of movement there, and definitely somewhere where we've had a lot of success. Raw material imports. This was another one that stood out to me too. So, folks that are sourcing granite, marble, things of that nature, definitely been another area where we've seen kind of an uptick in business over the last little bit. I don't know about folks on the webinar, but my wife redid our kitchen, so obviously had to get some granite and some marble in that redo, kind of a COVID project that she took on. So and then as well too, you'll see manufacturing and electronics on the list. So again, just some of those sectors where we're finding kind of some of the largest areas where people are really looking to try to find those places where they can source these products from. Those have been kind of some of the top ones that we've worked with so far. And then here, moving into kind of some of the challenges with sourcing, and then as well to paying those folks. So I know I've touched on kind of the sourcing piece, which we do deal with on a daily basis, working with all of our clients, and then as well to that payment side is really kind of what we're trying to help alleviate and make that a smoother process to not only add value for folks, but also tie in some of that time savings aspect. So telling a little bit of a story here, some of the current challenges and areas of improvement that we've highlighted in the space. I would say that a blanket statement, I think most people will agree that supplier payments are extremely cumbersome, and lots of folks have been looking for an easier way to do this. So the significant issue here with the old school, if you will, kind of method of a supplier payment is that it's just a little bit outdated, for lack of a better term. So there can be delays in payments, whether it be not being able to track certain payments. I think one of the other presenters spoke on if there's a holiday in China, or if it's Chinese New Year, or one of the festivals they have, are you aware of that on the other side? If there's a holiday in Europe, are you aware of that backlog, right? If the banks are closed for whatever it is. So I think those are some of the things we've basically seen from a delayed standpoint. And then as well too, kind of the cost piece, which with the current economic times, I know everybody is touching on cost, right? So is the method that you have cost effective for you? So are there handling fees? Are there good foreign exchange rates, not only for yourself but for the supplier that you are paying? I'm sure most folks have had an invoice or something that's been generated from someone they're working with. You've sent them that money, let's say it's $1,000 US, and on the other side they said, hey, I'm 20, 30, 40, $50 short. Generally that happens when an intermediate bank is involved. This slide here kind of shows the different cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, right? So the traditional method, there's lots of different parties involved with intermediate banks, your payment going from bank A to B to C, where we try to simplify that cross-border payment and just essentially allow it to go from point A to point B. We also have kind of a tracking method that we're able to see where these payments are in real time, to give not only you an idea of where your money is. You want to know that it's safeguarded, but also then your supplier. So those are kind of some of the key highlights of some of the challenges that we've seen in the space, and some of the improvement. I would also say, touching on the compliance, or the quote unquote KYC of knowing your customer is another big one. You want to make sure that your money is at a trusted source. There's nothing going on from a compliance piece as well too. We get that question quite a bit, so I know that's also something that's extremely important to folks that are looking to source, and I know that's been a challenge from a lot of the clients that we've spoken with on our side here at PingPong. So this one here is just essentially touching on finding the right supplier. So, with PingPong, we do have that network of folks that are, not only buyers and sellers, not only on the supplier side, but the e-commerce side as well too. So really looking to kind of build that network and connect folks in a trusted environment. So, supplier pay, as I mentioned, is there's always a risk, when you're taking on a challenge in procurement process. There's going to be, like I said, market risks, potential fraud risks, the cost, the quality as well too. You've got a couple samples, they look good. You then go ahead to place a larger order. Can you trust and guarantee that that quality is going to be there throughout the process? And then as well too, the delivery. I've had lots of clients that have told us, horror stories about things where, they've went ahead, they've placed the order, they've paid X amount on the invoice, and then from there, hey, the shipment's been sent, it's on its way, and then they're kind of left just in the dark. So I think that's definitely something that we're trying to be a thought leader in the space, trying to find different ways where they're able to have that visibility, both sides of the transaction as well too, and kind of provide that comfort. PingPong also allows you to connect with your payee, as I said, so kind of gives you that peace of mind that, hey, the person on the other end of this transaction is a trusted source. They've been vetted. We do, as I mentioned, have kind of our own in-house compliance team to make sure that everything's above board. There's no anti-money laundering flags. There's no risks, anything of that nature. And I think from what we've seen, obviously, as I touched on, in the procurement and the risk, mitigation piece, you want to make sure that, your money's safeguarded and you're not leaving yourself out for any exposure. So I would say those have been kind of some of the right things in regards to finding that right supplier. Then from there, this slide essentially, and I apologize for the font. When I had it on my screen, it was in white writing, but it looks like it changed here. But this slide essentially just kind of highlights some of the logistics of finding a supplier. So whether you're working through an agent, a sourcing company, you're again want to go ahead and try to mitigate some of these issues. So I would say an accurate forecast of being able to predict that demand is absolutely crucial for businesses, whether it be you've overstocked and then you're sitting there with a bunch of product, or you're understocked, you're then running the risk of losing, potential A, clients, and then B, potential clients, right? So I think that's also something that we need to take into consideration when you're logistically looking, for those suppliers that you're working with and trusting and entering a business relationship with. Managing margins, again, a huge piece with not only the kind of global economic current picture that we have, but also just, as a whole, you want to make sure that your money's protected, the company that you're working for, everything is protected there. So mitigating those risks from a margin standpoint is definitely something that we're on the forefront of, with competitive foreign exchange rates, and obviously lucrative cross-border payments as well too, trying to simplify that picture. I would say that when you're managing suppliers, you want to make sure that you have that two-way business relationship, and that's something that PingPong can kind of assist with. Shipping logistics. So this one here, obviously touching on just the, kind of the rising costs that we've seen across the board when it comes to sourcing materials and goods from overseas. Also, for that matter, on the domestic side of things as well too. I know I've spoken with many clients that have seen an uptick even with sourcing things domestically. Sellers are also struggling with kind of accurate forecasting, as I touched on. So when it comes to how much inventory they should get at a given time, they're always running that risk of, hey, do I have too much? Am I overstocked? Is there not enough here? And then how's that going to play out? So I think having those accurate forecasts and those safeguards in place is definitely something that we've seen from our clients, and something that we're really stressing to kind of make sure you're covering your bases when you are trying to find these suppliers and then navigating those payments with them. And then, of course, last point here, working with a new factory can obviously have, its downfalls, its anxiety to the seller. So finding a trusted source is key. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, was kind of that in-house compliance piece we have. We're making sure that, transaction is, vetted, above board. Everything is there in regards to kind of that safeguard method. So that's also something that, we've seen a lot of folks in the space that have said, hey, I've tried to source product from, A, B, and C. I've gotten samples from them. Everything looks great. I've went ahead and placed an order, but I wasn't really 100% sure who I was working with. I know, obviously, as well too, we've touched on kind of the global picture. with travel restrictions and things in different countries. I think it made this piece a lot harder for folks to just go ahead and jump on a plane and go to that factory, take a look around, see the product, have that relationship. I think because everything has moved kind of virtual, it's been a little bit harder to kind of find that trusted source, so to speak. So that's really where we're trying to come in and lead the forefront there of being able to trust those suppliers and being able to find a credible source with building that network through the PingPong brand. So, and then lastly, here are some best practices. So these are just things that we've seen kind of in the space from a best practice standpoint. Some of the things I would touch on would essentially be paying your suppliers in their own currency. Now, this can vary. Of course, some folks do like to have US dollar is sometimes a preferred currency, but more often than not, what we've seen is paying those folks in their own currency allows us to have a little bit of negotiation leverage. So if you're able to offer a supplier, hey, I can get you a great foreign exchange rate with PingPong, 8 out of 10 times we've seen that folks are more enticed or intrigued by that rather than having to do it on their own. So I would say having that that negotiation leverage with the local currency is definitely a big one for us and a best practice. It also then would maximize your earnings. So if you're able to get a great rate on US dollar to euro or rupee or whatever the currency pair you're working with, does give you some leverage to kind of maximize your savings as well too. Paying promptly as well, so that eliminates delays and then also keeps your suppliers happy. So you guys really have entered into that quote unquote business relationship, making sure that you guys have kind of a two-way communication street of, hey, I've paid this invoice today, let's say September 13th, I paid this invoice today. Your supplier on the other side is thinking, well, do I have any way of knowing that? So kind of having a tool that you can use to show them, or they're able to track the payment is something that PingPong can provide, and I think does obviously eliminate any kind of piece where they may think that the payment is not on the way, or the old expression, hey, the check's in the mail, right? I think that kind of gives not only sellers, but it also gives kind of the folks that you're working with on the sourcing side, gives them that visibility into it, and makes it kind of a two-way street, which is kind of an added change in the space and been very well received, not only from our side of folks that we're working with on a sending aspect, but also those clients that we're working with that are sourcing and providing. So and then as well too, lastly here, as I touched on previously, the compliance and the KYC, which is know your customer. So having that world-class risk and compliance team internally within our offices, and within any piece, definitely allows you to kind of have peace of mind. It allows you to kind of say, hey, I know this transaction is above board. I know everything is done correctly. I know who I'm paying. Kind of gives you that kind of ease and peace of mind, so to speak. So I think that's definitely something that we've kind of stressed on, and from speaking to people in the space, something that we've definitely kind of put at the top of our priority list in kind of providing that satisfaction and that kind of guarantee peace of mind for clients, if you will. Then as well here, just following on the best practice piece, next one would be kind of that dedicated service. So having that global support is definitely a huge one for us. We speak your language, and of course are able to speak your supplier's language too. We have account management within 17 different countries, so that alone allows us to be able to kind of work with, if it's a factory in China, if it's a sourcing agent in the UK, being able to kind of have those connections on a global footprint is definitely something that we found as a best practice. It allows you to work through time zones, holidays, different roadblocks or hurdles that you may encounter throughout this journey that you're taking, and that's definitely something that is an added bonus. Just having that dedicated service and support. The world, and especially with payments, money never sleeps is a line I like to say. So definitely something that kind of adds peace of mind and ease of use to be able to have that dedicated support. Then, as I touched on earlier, the reducing of cost piece. Obviously eliminating transactional fees. I've seen, not horror stories, but definitely from our clients who have said, hey, I've sent an international wire transfer, Bank of America has charged me, $80 to send that, or whatever it is, right? Eliminating those transaction fees and putting the money back into the company's bottom line, I think, is something that we're really trying to empower folks to do. when navigating those supplier payments. We've had lots of clients kind of tell us that, being able to put this money back has saved us X amount of dollars, not only on that front, but also X amount of time. So those have kind of been some of the great, stories we like to hear from our clients, just in regards to, eliminating that, transactional fees that, in my mind, are unnecessary. And then as well too, the market leading FX rate. So I know I touched on kind of speaking with paying in your payee's currency. This then obviously gives you kind of that buying power to say, hey, I can get you a great rate on, XYZ currency pair. Not something that traditionally the banks would offer. And I think from what we've seen, and me personally in the space, this is why a lot of suppliers or sourcing agents are apprehensive to receive their own currency, is that they're worried about those exchange rates. So just having that ability to be able to offer them those market leading exchange rates has definitely been something that we've seen be very successful for us. And then as well too, also improves relationships, as I said, with kind of some of the economic times, and with kind of coming, I'd say, down from the COVID piece. I think building those relationships within business when you're sourcing and making supplier payments is definitely something that a lot of people kind of rely on. Most people do business with people they like, I think is the old saying. So using this, obviously providing fast payments, more profits, and then no action needed on the recipient side, definitely something that is valuable, not only to yourself as a seller, but to the recipient side. They don't want to have to fill out a form or provide XYZ document. Most of these folks in factories just want to essentially receive the payment, and that's something that we can provide. And then as well too, this also reduces friction. Everybody stays happy. You guys can continue to build that relationship. As I mentioned, if it's not something that you guys have done in person, it allows you then to obviously kind of have that trusted relationship, saying, hey, you can take a look, I sent the payment here, here's the date, you can track it. Just gives you kind of that availability and that flexibility to continue to grow those relationships, not only with the sourcing agent, but whoever you're looking for, suppliers, manufacturers, wholesalers. It just makes the payment process a lot easier on both sides of the transaction. And then as well too, here, just another piece on the supplier side. So time savings, which I touched on, is definitely something that's a huge factor in this process in the payment space. Time is money. Everybody wants to be able to take that time and save it, spend it with your family, spend it on other ideas, put it back into your business. So having that automation is definitely key for us in regards to being able to save that time for our clients. Then as well, faster transfers. So having that real network effect of not only different clients, but different rails where we're able to move funds around. Same day and next day payments is something that, from what I've seen in the space, is almost that standard now. Nobody wants to sit around and wait and say, hey, I sent the payment, the check's in the mail. They want to be able to say, hey, I sent the payment to you this morning, you'll have it before the end of day your time. Or, hey, I sent it to you late last night on the East Coast, you'll have it in the morning when you wake up. Whatever the case is, people want to be able to see that kind of same day payment. And then as well too, the confirmation piece, which I touched on. So having the ability to be able to say to the client or to the sourcer, hey, I've sent this to you, you have the receipt, everything's there and done, kind of gives not only you, but them that peace of mind. And then as well, the cost-effective piece that I touched on. So you're able to avoid those bank fees. You do have that network behind you. And then also the competitive foreign exchange rate is one that I've continued to touch on. The benefits of these, kind of pieces obviously allow us to have reduced business admin work. So for example, 7 minutes on 200 payments times 12 months is 35 working days per year. That if you're able to eliminate those 7 minutes on those 200 payments over the course of 12 months, that gives not only yourself 25 extra working days, but also your business, and allows you to kind of, put that time elsewhere. The happy suppliers piece as well. Technology-based solution eliminates errors, creating happier beneficiaries, and also gives you that ability to pay your suppliers in their local currency, which we've touched on. Continues to grow that relationship and just makes everything easier, not only on yourself, but on the other side of the transaction. And then lastly, the second piece here would be kind of the significant savings. So leveraging those payments to be able to negotiate better rates. Another example, let's say you're paying $35, you send 200 payments a month times 12 months, That's an annual ballpark savings of about $84,000, just in annual savings that you're able to put back into the bottom line of the company. So definitely, when it comes to those three things, with reduced business admin, the happier suppliers, and then the significant savings, I think that kind of ties everything in and kind of tells the real story of being able to successfully have, not only a happy kind of, supplier, but also being able to go through those sourcing challenges as they come up. I know one of the things that I've seen in the space as well too is, kind of not having that fear to fail, being able to continue to, go at this, right? So whether it be, you've worked with one supplier and you may have been burned in the past, and you may have sourcing challenges, being able to tie that back in and using solutions like PingPong really bring that full circle from my experience. So and then the last slide here is essentially just, once again, me thanking you for your time. Not sure if there were any questions in the chat, but I guess I just saw Karen pop in there.
Yes. Yeah, because I just saw a question from the audience from Brian. Given the increased competition in the fintech space, what key factors separate PingPong from its peer?
Awesome. Yeah, great question, Brian. Happy to see one come through here. I would say, to your point, definitely the fintech space is thriving. Lots of competition, as you mentioned. I would say one of the key factors here that I would really stand out to me would be the cost and the time savings. I think being able to leverage our foreign exchange rates is something that we're very competitive with, and I would say having that ability from a global footprint definitely gives us that one up on some of our key competitors in the space.
Yes, and I totally agree with you when how people used to say, oh, the check is in their mail, or even nowadays when we go across border, it might take like 2 to 3 days to do some transaction. It's a long wait, and suppliers do run out of patience. They'll say like, oh, if you don't pay your bill by today noon, then we'll forfeit your order or whatever. That is a killer when it comes to like deadlines, and especially in the rush seasons. So yeah,
Exactly.
So that's really good.
And we're about to head into that holiday season, Karen. So I know, to your point, a lot of our clients have kind of echoed the same message. And with that speed and ease of use, and then as well too, being able to show the other side of the transaction that it's there. It's better than, like you said, hey, the check's in the mail. You're actually able to provide that confirmation and show them that. So I 100% agree with you there.
Totally. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions from the audience. Well, anyways, time is almost up. We'll see Mike again tomorrow at the same time, actually. And then also Mike will be hosting a roundtable discussions and interact with all the audience to wrap up the summit tomorrow, or my time tomorrow evening, which should be your...
I think it's Thursday morning on the East Coast. I think it's scheduled for 9 a.m. Central. And I was just going to say before I left too, Karen, Brian, if you have any questions or anything of that nature, there will be a full product demo tomorrow as well. So, feel free to take a look at that and check that out as well.
Yeah, it's very important to know what you can use, what's out there that you can use to ease your process and also to save money. So for those who want to learn more about PingPong service, please visit the link shown below, and you can see how much you can save via PingPong service. As mentioned by Mike, for the FX rate, the service fee, all those that you can save on. And then thank you very much, Mike. And we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time for the demo. And then the final session of the summit, while Mike discuss with you on the navigating supplier and sourcing challenges. Okay.
Perfect.
So
awesome.
See you soon, Mike.
Thanks, Karen. It was great to see you again. I hope everybody has a great day and evening. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. So up next, we'll have Michelle Evans joining us to talk about digital merchandising, learning from unique business model. Okay. Let's bring Michelle onto the screen. Hi, Michelle. Oh, you're on mute. Let me see if I can unmute you. You're unmuted.
There we go. Hi,
okay,
how are you?
Hi. Great. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Michelle has over 15 plus years of experience scaling retail and e-commerce businesses, and has worked with some mega brands such as Walmart and Tiffany and Co. I wish I worked for that. So with that, and you have a lot of experience to share, right? Without further ado, because I don't want to hold up the audience time, so I'll just pass the backstage to you because we have a very packed schedule.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks, Karen.
I'll bring your deck onto the screen.
Thank you.
Okay, and you can control it from there. I'll see you in about 30 minutes. I'll be at the backstage, so just shout out if you need anything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all for joining. As Karen mentioned, we're going to talk about lessons learned, merchandising lessons learned from unique business models. So let's get started. I thought I would just give a little bit more of an introduction, some background about me. So I have spent over 15 years in retail and e-commerce merchandising. And I think one of the big differentiators of my career is really the diversity of my experiences. So I have worked across many different retail business models, from traditional luxury and brick and mortar to flash sales, to social retail, to text message-based commerce, to subscription. I'm really drawn to the unique ways that retail businesses are engaging with and creating sticky relationships with customers. I've also worked across a wide range of product categories, from women's, men's, kids, to home and full lifestyle. And then because I've spent a lot of time at startups, I've had to wear a lot of hats, and I've gained a broad spectrum of exposure to different functional areas, even outside of merchandising, such as demand and inventory planning, brand marketing, product lifecycle management, business development, and more. And then lastly, I'm truly an art and science person. So I love product, as you'll hear a lot about in this presentation, and consider myself to be pretty creative, but I also approach merchandising from a very analytical and data-driven perspective. All right, so what's on the agenda for this session? So I'm going to share with you some of the digital merchandising and marketing lessons I've learned from some of these unique business models. As we go along, I'll share an overview about each of these 4 companies, their business model, and then explain some very practical applications. All right, so let's start with subscription. I'm going to talk about Bespoke Post, which is a company I worked for recently as Chief Merchandising Officer. Bespoke Post is a monthly subscription box company. It serves over 300,000 members. Each month, they release new theme boxes filled with goods across multiple lifestyle categories. So why do we care about subscription? Essentially, subscription is a way to get predictable, repeating revenue and pretty high customer lifetime value. So that's why companies are attracted to the subscription model. So for subscription to be effective, customers need to take their box or buy the product that the subscription company is offering every month, which really means that the company needs to understand their customers' preferences, understand what they're looking for, and get them excited to convert over and over again. So at Bespoke Post, members would take an onboarding quiz where the company would learn about their preferences in category preferences. And then also they would be asked to take periodic surveys throughout their journey. Boxes launched every month. And to keep it exciting, a lot of the products in those boxes were exclusive to Bespoke Post. All right, let's move on. Okay, so what can we learn from subscription, right? If you don't have the ability to offer a subscription service to your customers, you can still use some of the techniques that make subscription effective to drive that recurring revenue and repeat purchase. The first is getting to know your customer. The second is launching a new product. And those are really the 2 hallmarks of why subscription is effective. So let's dive in a little bit to these. All right, first, get to know your customer. So the more you know your customer and their preferences, right, the more effectively you can merchandise for them and market to them. So some ways that you can get to know your customer, the first is studying their purchase history and their shopping behavior. How do they like to shop? Do they like to shop by price point, by occasion, by style, by color? A lot of this is going to be in your sales data. You can use surveys, ask questions, build customer profiles. You know, what's their style? What do they do? And what do they do in terms of their work? Where do they live? What are their hobbies? You can also poll customers and visitors to your site, right? Ask them to weigh in potentially on new product ideas. So if you're going to launch a new product, if you get some input from your customer before it launches, the likelihood of that product being successfully adopted is going to go up. And customers that weigh in on products as we found a bespoke post. You'll see in this example, we were launching some blankets and we're asking the customer to tell us what pattern they like best. When customers feel attached or personally invested in products before they launch, they're more likely to buy those products when they launch. So getting to know your customer is going to help you a lot in merchandising effectively and marketing to them. Next is the power of new product launches. So everyone loves new product, right? Everyone loves a product drop. It's very exciting. And why is that? There's a lot of great benefits to launching new product for your business, right? You can attract new customers. You have an excuse to re-engage with customers, drive repeat purchase. Things, as I mentioned, like exclusives and collaborations with other brands can amplify that excitement. So if you're a subscription box company, you're dropping product, every month. That's hard to do. It's hard to have that pipeline. Maybe you don't have a pipeline to launch newness all the time. You can still take that note from subscription and find creative ways to launch new product, right? So let's get creative. How can you launch new product if you don't have, enough of a pipeline or the resources to launch true newness every month? Well, you can organize your products into sets, gift sets, maybe mix things together in a combination that your customers have never seen before. Also create, multiple units to create value sets. So there's a lot of ways to make product look and feel new and give you that excuse to reach out to your customers and get new customers excited to shop with you. All right, we're going to move on to the second business model, direct sales. We're going to talk about Chloe and Isabel. So Chloe and Isabel was a jewelry company that sold its line through its network of sales consultants, or merchandisers, as we call them. Long before the recent heyday of influencer marketing on Instagram, direct sales consultants were the OG original social retail model because they were selling their products in social settings such as in-person pop-ups or shopping parties. At Chloe and Isabel, we also created a way for these sales consultants to host online pop-up events, which mimicked some of the social sharing experiences that would happen at the in-person events. All right, so what can we learn from direct sales or social retail? Now, if you're a pure play digital brand, there's still value in showing off your product in real life, and brand ambassadors are a great way to replicate some of the value that direct sales consultants offer. And we'll talk about more about that in a minute. When you don't have the ability to do brick and mortar product displays, online visual merchandising techniques and storytelling become very important and powerful tools. And we're going to talk about some top tips for that next. All right, so you may not have direct sales representatives. If you're not a direct sales company, you likely don't, but you can still identify advocates to be your brand ambassadors, and you can reward them with free product or discounts instead of commissions. So who could be your brand ambassadors? Your top customers and most loyal customers are actually a great place to first identify potential brand ambassadors. Brand ambassadors can really help to bridge that gap between digital and in real life, because your brand ambassadors are going to physically wear or use their products, show them off, and tell other people about them. And it really can bring that kind of human element to your digital brand in a way that the direct sales agents were used to doing. All right, next, we're going to talk a little bit about digital merchandising in terms of visuals. So again, at Chloe and Isabel, there were over 10,000 independent sales consultants that sold the jewelry line. And in my role as head of merchandising, I was responsible for training them not only on how to merchandise their in-person displays, but also how to translate that visual merchandising to their personal websites for digital selling. So I'm going to share here some of my top tips, and I showed a little collection example here. So number one is cross-selling. If you're in a physical display, you can show people what to style together, what looks good together, what you might put together as an outfit, for example. And so here you'll see that we paired volume drivers, like the little stud earrings and bracelets, with a statement-making necklace to show what goes together. Second, visual hierarchy is also very important. And this is a tried and true technique, right? Focusing on putting your best sellers at the top, putting new products at the top of the collection, and putting products where you have relatively more inventory, things that you want to move through. The higher up products are in the collection, the faster they're going to sell. If you were in person, you would put those products front and center in your display. You would actually raise them physically up on busts or on, different displays. The things that are up visually high will drive more conversion and attract more shopping. And so this idea of kind of pairing things together visually is going to encourage multi-unit orders and higher average order value. Storytelling is another very powerful visual technique. And I'll talk a little bit about what are stories. So stories are just another way to organize your products, but in a bit more of an inspirational way than just organizing them by product type or category or even price point. Stories can do a lot for you besides just to kind of engage your customer, create that emotional connection, which is really powerful. There's a lot of really, really tangible benefits to using stories as a way to group your products together. So first of all, you can mix new products with core products together. You can give older inventory a new life by showing it to your customer in a new way. You can take products from multiple categories and put them together and show how they might be used together, which again can encourage multi-unit purchases and higher order value. And you can also basically show your customers that there's cohesion across items that might otherwise not work together. So what are some examples of stories? There's so many different stories that you can tell. And really stories should make sense, for your brand and for what you stand for and what you think your customers are interested in. But I'll throw out some examples. So for instance, you can have a story that is seasonal. So, winter cozy, which could be, if you were, selling in multiple categories, it could be, cozy scarves. It could be then blankets. It could be fire pits. I mean, it could be anything, right, that tells a story of how are you going to keep warm and toasty in the winter. It could be topical. So, during the award seasons here in the US, a lot of folks like to do things around the Oscars and the Emmys. And so you can have a collection that's called Classic Hollywood Style. Color can also be an amazing story. So a lot of companies I've seen do something like Pantone of the year or some other color story that's trending. Activities can be another really great story. Right now, customers are thinking about experiences and activities. Is putting more of their time and share of wallet there, right? So taking your products and putting them into a story that says to the customer, you can have an experience with my products, whether that's going on a fall picnic or taking a hike or going on a trip. Lastly, destinations are another really powerful and fun way to create storytelling. So in this example, the story that we're telling with this product is called the Amalfi Coast. And so the products chosen here were meant to make you think about the deep blue waters, using like blue stones and lapis, turquoise, and then of course the yellows and green to represent the lemon trees that are very notorious in the Amalfi Coast. Okay, we're going to move on to Jet Black and conversational commerce or text message-based commerce. So Jet Black was a membership fee-based concierge-style quick commerce service that was solely operated via text message. So members paid a monthly fee and they were able to text their orders for non-perishable items to Jet Black and then receive very fast delivery same day or next day. So what was most unique about the service was that there was no customer-facing website or product catalog. So they could not browse and they could not search. So that meant that a big part of the value proposition was expert product recommendations that Jet Black was giving to customers. And those were all developed behind the scenes by my team of merchants and researchers. The recommendations were meant to feel like they were coming from a trusted friend, right? So in the same way that a mom might ask another mom, what's the best sippy cup that doesn't leak? That was what it was meant to be, really a conversation between two people. Jet Black was largely built to help Walmart learn how customers respond to the ability to order by text, essentially, again, by having that conversation with a concierge agent, as well as the type of items that customers would purchase through texting. So having been on the ground at Jet Black from almost day one pre-launch, I gathered some learnings that I think can apply to broader retail businesses. So number one is that engagement on text is much higher than on email. At JetBlack, we found that texting our customers for any reason. So for example, we might say, hey, member, it's back to school shopping season. Here's our top picks for backpacks. This type of request would lead to some conversion on backpacks, but more interestingly, it would also trigger a slew of requests for other items. So very, very high engagement from any type of outreach via text. Secondly, product recommendations are very powerful. And this is something that is very broadly applicable. Have you ever been to a restaurant and had trouble deciding what to order, right? A lot of times you'll say, okay, ask the server for their recommendation. The server might say, well, fish tacos are the most popular item on the menu, right? If they tell you that, I bet that you'll strongly consider ordering those tacos. And we found that to be very true in giving recommendations at JetBlack. Product recommendations work especially well if you can personalize them in some way, maybe personalize them to what you know about your customer. Back to our conversation about getting to know your customer, could be based on their attributes, their browsing behavior, etc. But even if you can't personalize, you can still recommend. And you can use some of these tried and true techniques by adding things like frequently bought together and showing additional products. Or you may also You also can add things like featured, top rated, customer favorites. Again, that goes back to that sort of social proof, just like we said with the waiter example. If a customer knows another customer or many other customers love something, that is giving them a recommendation and a stamp of approval. And that does lead to higher conversion. Okay, the last company we're going to talk about and business model we're going to talk about are flash sales. So far we've talked about getting to know your customers, launching new products, making recommendations. So lastly, we're going to talk about promotions. I'm not a fan of being an overly promotional company or brand, but everyone has product that they need to work through, whether you have too much of something, something's outdated, whatever it is, there comes a time where we need to move through excess inventory. So flash sales are something that can work, and I'll talk to you about how. So Gilt, if you're not familiar about it, was one of the original big flash sale companies in the US. Essentially, a flash sale is selling, a limited number of items at steep discounts for brief periods. Gilt experienced this hyper growth period between 2007 and 2013. I think they peaked revenue like $600 million, 8 million members. Ultimately, the growth could not be sustained because they couldn't keep up with the amount of the designer inventory. And there was also some email fatigue, which was the primary way that they promoted the business. However, you don't have to be a flash sale company to take advantage of what works in Flash. So let's talk about what that is. So flash sales can be a highly effective tool when they're used strategically. So there's some reasons for that, right? You can generate some new demand. As we mentioned, you can liquidate some excess or out of season inventory. It's also a great way to drive impulse purchases and push your AOV up by getting people excited to buy in that moment. So what are the kind of hallmarks of a flash sale? I'm going to start with the last two, actually. So first is that you keep it short. The duration should not be long. You don't want to have the sale up, for a week or more, right? That's not as exciting, right? Is the customer knowing that there's urgency here. I only have a few days to get these great discounts. Go big, right? Make the discounts exciting, more exciting than you might have for a regular sale. And then the third one I'm going to add on here is to keep it special. And this really comes down to that idea of not being an overly promotional brand, right? Keep these kinds of events happening only a couple of times a year. And you don't have to call it a flash sale. So some of the companies I've worked for, we might call it the semi-annual warehouse sale, something that tells the customer this is not something that you're going to get access to all the time. Because the truth is that having fewer promotions, but making them more exciting, you can actually drive more revenue and move through more excess product faster and more effectively than having smaller promotions all the time that your customer gets sort of used to, and that can lead to your brand feeling overly promotional. All right, so we've gone through our 4 business models and we have a bit of a wrap up here, some of the key takeaways. So let's run through these quickly and then I think we'll have a couple of minutes for questions. So first, the more you get to know your customer, the more effectively you can merchandise for them and market to them. Next, you can let your website do the work for you with visual merchandising and storytelling, especially if you don't have the ability to have physical product displays. You can be creative in how to launch new products frequently. So we talked about the fact that launching new products can drive a lot of excitement, can help you acquire new customers, can help you engage with your existing customers. If you don't have the pipeline or the resources to launch true newness all the time, be creative in what is a new product. And there's a lot of ways that you can define a new product. Next, you can improve sell-through of unproductive inventory with short, deep, and periodic flash sale style promotions. Show off the human side of your brand and products with brand ambassadors. So take a note from the direct sales model. And then lastly, if you haven't tried text, I would recommend it as a way to engage your customer, either starting by using it for asking for feedback or recommending products. Even if you can't transact over text, it can still be a really great engagement and marketing tool. All right, we covered a lot. Would love to hear, I think I saved 5 minutes. Maybe that's too much time, but love to hear if there are any questions.
That was really great sharing. And I do agree with you about the recommendation and the personal message that people have when selling the products, especially for people like me, because I can never decide on what I want. Whenever I go into the restaurant, I'm like, oh, if I want chicken or fish or beef or seafood, I can never decide. So I just end up asking the server, or especially when it comes to wine, because those names are just confusing. So I'll just ask them what goes best. So that is something very important. But I have a question. What if the business is relatively new and they don't have any customer favorites or top sellers yet? How would you pose that to the market?
That's a great question. And the truth is that if you're a new business and you don't have a ton of sales history or customer profile data yet, you can fake it till you make it, right? And so you may have to take some educated guesses, but you also can combine that with doing some external research. So you may not have, your own customers to pull, but there are tons of great resources out there where you can pull customers that may be similar to the ones you're trying to target or that you do have. There's a company called Pullfish out there that we used at Jet Black a lot before we launched. And so certainly doing that, or even creating your own, within your own, if you're a startup founder, right, you might, when I first started at Jet Black and we were trying to put together some initial merchandising ideas, I had like 25 moms on a text thread. And I would just ask them, like, what's your favorite this? What do you use for that? So sometimes it's really getting grassroots and just starting with something.
Nice. That's good. So if the audience have any questions, do feel free to drop it in the message box and then see if Michelle can help you with that. I had something else on mind, but I just lost it for a moment. Because even in the earlier session today, we were talking about not every product is sexy. So, for example, they brought an example of a garlic presser. If you have something that is very common, how would you stand out from the rest of the competition?
Well, I have a lot of ideas for that. In some of the businesses I've worked for, we've sold things that are very, functional, perfunctory. They're not as exciting, but that's really where the storytelling comes through. So maybe your garlic press has different features, right? You can always talk about features and benefits. Maybe it works better, it's sharper, it's easier to hold in your hand, whatever the case may be. You may have features about the product that work better than others that you can talk about. But if it's not that easy to differentiate from the product features, that's where the storytelling and the content can also come into play, right? So like, Do you have a mouth-watering recipe for something you can make with garlic, right? An amazing garlic bread or a sauce. Do you merchandise and pair that garlic press with a more, sexy cast iron skillet that you're going to put that garlic in to sizzle? So there's a lot of things you can do again, back to that storytelling, show products that maybe are a little bit more basic, put them next to something really exciting, and drive add-on sales through that product.
That's very interesting. That's such a good idea. Okay. I know it's getting late for you, so I won't hold you up. For those that want to contact Michelle, get her professional help, because she has some really, really brilliant ideas. So you can contact her at Michelle at, I can't really read it, elsara.co. Yeah. Text is too small on my monitor. And then feel free to contact her. You can also find her contact details on our event website. So yeah, do reach out to her, and then she can help you bring your product to the next level. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. That was some fascinating information. I realized I missed a comment in the comment box earlier. An audience asked, is there any events in India? Yes, actually, to my knowledge, there will be an exhibition in India in October. You can Google that. And then also there will be a summit called Ecom India Summit. So feel free to search online for that. I'm sure the more information will be available. Okay, so up next, let's welcome Yulia from Zignify to join us again. Hi, Yulia. You look great, no worries. Just that you're muted.
It's only 3 in the morning for me, so I apologize if I'm a little bit fluffy.
I apologize for holding you up. It's just
no.
People are everywhere in the world, so hard to keep track of everybody's schedule and things.
It's good.
Yeah, I actually see more people are coming in as live viewers right now compared to the panel this morning. Maybe more people are viewing from Asia or Australia at this time, because as mentioned earlier this morning, my morning, people are back to normal on the road, and you have just been traveling everywhere and will be traveling again.
We came back
soon.
from Australia ourselves just, today or yesterday. I'm confused by the time zones, so yeah.
Yeah, well, Yulia shared some very insightful information earlier this session, as she's the co-founder of Zignify, which has a global network for finding the right manufacturer. I'm sure I'm sure she has dealt with some products and manufacturer of all types. You share some problems this morning, like how to overcome some problems. So note that she's the one to go to when you want to learn about product sourcing globally and negotiating with suppliers, stock, and what not to do. Okay, so are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Great. So I'll put your deck onto screen, and then I'll remove myself. I'll come back on in about 30 minutes or when you're ready. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
So, hello to all who is here and who is not here and will be watching this later. Hello to you as well. So, I'm going to try to be as precise and concise as possible and share some information in regards to product sourcing, where you can source products, not only in China, but some other countries as well, pros, cons, differences, etc., etc. So in order for you to understand why am I qualified to speak about those processes, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Yulia. I used to be a managing director for a unicorn company in Germany. I have 17 years of product sourcing experience, supply chain, and everything that relates to that. I actually spent 9 years living in China, then Singapore, and since 2017, I am located in Germany. One of the reasons for this, of course, was family. The other reason was a lot of our customers started to switch from manufacturing in Asia to Europe and to US. So we thought it would be a good idea to establish a footprint on the ground to make sure that, we can supply and support our customers on any level. Not only I deal with product sourcing and supply chain, but I myself am an Amazon seller since actually 2014, which is back in the day, right? Where there were, and I mentioned a little bit earlier today, there were no tools, there was no help, there were no courses, no nothing. So all of the people who are getting into e-commerce right now, they're extremely lucky, and there is basically tons of information that they can get online for free, at events like this. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we do. We help our customers who are e-commerce sellers, already established or new ones, to help find manufacturers across the globe, and to make sure that your costs are optimized. Because when it comes to selling your products online, it is not only important how much is the actual price of your product, but it is also extremely important how much your shipping will cost, your logistics and transportation, what is your import tax, your VAT, is there a Trump tax if you're especially shipping from China to US, and all of those other little things that one doesn't think about, but needs to know if you want to manufacture your product and sell it in another country. We have experience working with different types of customers. These are Amazon sellers, retailers, distributors, e-commerce sellers. So there is no limitation on the categories of products that we have experienced throughout the years. We've done everything from dried mealworms for chicken feed to machinery that produces protein bars. So anything and everything you can imagine in between, we've done it. So yeah, tons of experience in many different areas. We work with many different customers. The biggest customer from Amazon we currently have, it's actually the numbers around there, not $70 million in revenue they made last year, but $75 million in revenue. We also work with people who have nothing to do with e-commerce and are, for example, industry leaders. So that's just something, a lot of jibber jabber for you to understand that I actually have experience. I actually enjoy my job, and let's dive right into this. So why do we need to consider currently additional costs or additional options to manufacturing in China, to manufacturing in Asia? I think those are very understandable and noticeable truth that if you have already been selling online, that you probably have faced. So in the world, the shipping costs have been increasing dramatically in the last few years. Even before COVID hit, the shipping costs have started to increase. China to US, or for example, the container prices before for a 40 high cube container were, let's say, $7,000. They went up to $18,000. But luckily for all of you who sell in US, the shipping costs have actually dropped in the last few weeks. So currently you can actually ship a 40 high cube container for $8,000 from China to US, which is amazing. Increase in labor costs in China and throughout Asia as well, which of course affects the price of the product. Increase in utility costs due to different political situation. Lead times. Oh God, this was quite a roller coaster in the last few years for a lot of our customers, where lead times went from 30 days to almost 30 months on some occasions, which is of course not realistic. If you want to sell, if you want to grow, you need to reorder. And increase in delivery times due to congestion at ports, due to close down ports, factories. So the combination of all of those fails that happened due to the pandemic accumulated this horrible ball of negative impact towards towards our customers, and our job is to help kind of correct that impact, right? So with all of that negativity that I've just mentioned, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't manufacture your products in Asia. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying that there are other options, and those options should be considered on individual basis, based on what your product is, based on which market you're selling, and based on your sales model as well. Because it can be, for example, you buy goods, you produce mass production, you ship it, and then you sell it piece by piece through a 3PL, or you can drop ship directly, let's say from China or from some other country. So this is something that should also be considered for sure. So I'm not saying do not produce in Asia. I'm just saying that there are other options. Okay, so the first thing that I would like to mention is what are some of the things that you should consider, that you should really, really take into your mind when you're doing sourcing in Asia, right? So when you're looking for a product with which you would like to make millions or tens of millions of dollars or euros, please consider the following. Make sure the product it's better to have a product that is low on weight and with a small volume. Why? Because the bigger, the heavier, the more massive your product is, the more expensive it will be to actually ship the product. And of course, this affects your costs. This, of course, it affects your margins. So, I know some people who buy a product for $1. It's a tiny little thing. And they sell it for like $50, right? And it's impressive. And I mean, those guys, they make a lot of money. The margins are wonderful. The shipping costs are very low. So when we identified your product, we found out that it's small and things like this. One of the next steps that you should actually do is actually contact the manufacturers. I'm speaking here specifically for Asia. When we work and we help our customers to verify manufacturers, get samples and all of that, we on average contact about 30 suppliers. We divide the world into parts. It's China and ROW, rest of the world. Yeah. So in China, we contact around about 30 manufacturers, and in rest of the world, we contact about 60 manufacturers. Why do we contact 30? For some people, that sounds quite a lot, but honestly, we consider this to be a good number for the reason that we're eliminating risk in terms of getting the wrong price. We're making sure that we spread ourselves in terms of getting as many prices as possible and getting as much knowledge as possible and good comparison. Plus, you always need to have a backup. So when you're searching for a manufacturer, when you're ordering samples, please make sure that you don't order samples from just one manufacturer. Make it 2, better 3, right? It depends on your product, because if you have a mold, that gets complicated, but please try to order samples from at least 2 manufacturers, 2 vendors. One of the tips how to decrease your costs, right? Because when you contact 30 manufacturers, you kind of can bet them against one another, kind of a fight club. And this helps you reduce the purchasing price. So one of the other tricks of actually reducing your purchasing price is to buy your packaging separately. So give me an example. I have a fork here, right? A fork, I have a knife here. So these products, let's say they're stainless steel, are produced by a certain manufacturer. This manufacturer produces products out of stainless steel. They might have some other goods that are produced from similar or the same materials. But most likely, this particular manufacturer is not going to produce packaging, right, which is made out of paper for those particular items. So what do they usually do? They reach out to some other manufacturers, to some other suppliers who produce the boxes, right? And they basically doing sourcing on your behalf. They get the price. Of course, they put a margin on it because they also want to make some money, right? And you end up having a more expensive product. A perfect example of this, we had a client, he was on a Today show in US. He was selling a product that is an electronics related product. And he came to us in order to optimize the costs. We optimized the cost on the product, that's one thing, but we also optimized the cost on his product packaging. His initial product packaging price was $1.50 from the existing supplier, the one who also supplied him the product itself. But when we went outside of this relationship and we went to the packaging manufacturers directly, we started purchasing the box for 60 cents. So you can see that we saved him 90 cents. And in my opinion, this is a very nice additional margin, right? So another way to actually save your costs, save a peace of mind, have wonderful reviews from your customers is to perform rigorous QC, perform rigorous quality control on samples during mass production and definitely before shipment. Again, another wonderful example. We have a friend. He's not our customer. Well, he wasn't before. Now he is. He found a manufacturer himself in China. He ordered the sample. Everything was perfect. Then he ordered mass production. He did not order a quality control for mass production. His purchase order was for a little bit over than 100,000 euros. And when the goods have arrived in Europe and it started selling, it turned out everything was absolutely unqualified. So he lost over 100 grand. He can't get the product redone or anything because the manufacturer simply refuses and says, but you've accepted everything. So please spend a few $100 and do the quality control before shipping, because this will save you so much time, so much money, and it will make your customers happy. Also, please make use of different types of shipping available to you. If you're selling in US, of course, rail shipping is not quite a great possibility when you're shipping from Asia, from China, Vietnam, or whatever. But if you're located, let's say, in Europe and you're selling in Europe, you can also utilize transportation, freight transportation by rail, not only sea freight, right? A hint to those, who sell in Europe. There is a very fast train that's going from Xi'an, and it goes to Mannheim in Germany in 28 days, which is quite a good timing in comparison to the sea freight. So those are some of the things that you should be aware of when sourcing in China, and some of the things that I suggest to do in order to improve the sourcing processes and the quality of your product, and simply the peace, a piece of your mind. So another thing that I would like to mention is something extremely important, and it's negotiations. This is not something that you learn in a day. This is, again, I've been in this business for 17 years, and every day I learn something new. It's unavoidable, and I love it. And this is how you should look at the processes of communicating with the manufacturers, because you will learn something new every day. Things will not go your way. Things will go very much not your way, but completely the opposite way. But stay on track, persevere, and things will get better. So in order to actually competently and with results to negotiate the product price, or maybe your shipping costs, or first of all, you need to know what do you want. I have faced a lot of situations when people came in and they say, I want a cheaper price, without given any specifics. And the specifics can be that, for example, yes, we can have a higher quantity. Yes, we can compromise on the materials. Yes, we can consider other countries for sourcing the product. So you need to, if you don't know what you want, how will the manufacturer know what you want? All of the manufacturers always say, oh, our price is more expensive because our quality is so much better. I've heard it time and time again. And on most of the occasions, it's not actually true. Sometimes it is, but most of the time, it's, of course, it's a strategy from their side as well. We're more expensive. Why? Because we want to have higher margins. We want to make more money. The same thing that you want to have. So please make sure to identify for yourself what you're comfortable with what compromises are you comfortable to go for. I always myself consider the communication between the supplier and the customer like being married or being in a relationship. Sometimes you need to compromise. Sometimes you need to be tough. But when you're working together, and this is where the next point comes in, the communication is key. You need to be open up to a point with your manufacturer about what you want where are you going? What is your current status, right? No one wants to say, oh, I'm a beginner, I have no sales, because you think that the manufacturer might not be interested in working with you. And you know what? Sometimes you might be right, but it all depends on the manufacturer. You can go through 30 manufacturers. You only need one at the end. Well, two, because you also need a backup, right? But you can go through all of them. And when you receive the negative information from them, it doesn't mean a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because you're wading through all of the bad, bad stuff in order to get to the good, gooey part. So this is where communication comes in. You need to be open and honest, but you can be a little bit devilish as well. You don't need to, put all of your cards on the table. You need to know the costs. You need to know the costs that are involved from the manufacturer's side. For example, if you're buying a product from the manufacturer, again, forks and knives, but you would like to make a bundle of something, please ask, what are you paying for? So what are the actual product costs? What are the labor costs? What are the packaging costs, right? If you know all of those parts, you will be able to optimize your costs in the future. If you see the product cost is too expensive, you can try and find a different manufacturer. Or if you see that labor costs are too expensive, you can ask why. What are the reasons? Are there some sort of complicated processes in manufacturing this particular product? Can we simplify the processes somehow to make it cheaper? So this is very important. You need to know the country where you would like to produce. And this is a big deal that a lot of newbies, but even the experienced people, they will not know where to go for which product. And this is where we and companies like us, we come in. We know the competences of different countries across the globe. So for example, if you would like to produce paper products, you can go to China, you can go to India, you can go to Italy, you can go to US, you can go to Malaysia, right? If you would like to produce condoms, you go to China or you go to Malaysia. If you would like to produce chicken feed or bird feed, you can go to South Africa, tons of countries in Europe, China, Thailand. So you need to understand the competences that the country has to offer. Because sometimes we see that the problem is that the customer's wants and needs do not really align with what the reality is. A lot of people are very creative, but unfortunately, that doesn't mean that that creativity can come into action, that creativity can come into life. I'll give you another wonderful example. We had a customer who said, I would like to produce a TV in Germany. I said, it is possible, but I do not advise you to do that. Why? Because all of the electronic components, they still come from China. And the only thing that you will be doing is the final assembly in Germany, where the labor cost per hour is extremely a lot more expensive than in China. So you will end up making a TV that costs 5 times the price or 10 times the price of China. And who is going to buy that? So those competences are extremely important. When you negotiate, and this will help you to negotiate, because it's not only the competences, but it's also the traditions of the said country. Because if you know what kind of mindset people have, right, you can kind of get into their head. When you're communicating with someone, try to be more on a personal level. Research those people. Go on their Instagram, go onto their Facebook, TikToks, whatever other social media out there, LinkedIn. See who the person is. See what kind of interest they have. Try to make it personal, because we as humans, we're more likely to help those who we like and with whom we communicate on a personal level. You need to find mutual gains for yourself and for the manufacturer. What is the first mutual gain is, of course, that both of you are making money and both of you are making good margins. So when you, for example, modify the product and try to reduce the costs, it is also in the it can be gainful for the manufacturer as well, and you need to explain it to them in such a way. Because if your product costs are a little bit cheaper than what they originally offered you, you potentially might be able to sell more, meaning more orders for the manufacturer. Try to find that mutual gain. Another mutual gain, that you will be growing together. I have seen customers who started from literally zero, and they started working with a smaller factory, and in a few years they grew the customer grew to the revenue of like 50 million, which means the factory grew in tremendous pace as well, and they expanded and they built new facilities, etc., etc. So project for the future, plan for it, and this is where the know what you want kind of comes into play as well. Fight Club I've mentioned. Bet the factories against one another, because in this way you will see which one is more flexible, which one is willing to give you a better price. Help suppliers save money. I've already mentioned this to you. And one of my favorite, and this works everywhere, this doesn't only work in China, but this works across the globe, is I am not the boss. So if a customer thinks that he or she is talking to the boss, your negotiating position sometimes kind of can go down. But if you're saying, oh, you know what, I need to discuss this with my boss, he can be such a not nice person and can be stubborn, you can make, again, this goes towards making a personal connection with the customers, with the manufacturers, where the manufacturer can feel a little bit of pity for you and maybe kind of cave in and give you some price reductions. So again, psychology here plays a huge role. Stock or not to stock. Yes, please stock. You need to be, you need to have things to sell, and if you're out of stock, you're going to be in big trouble. And it doesn't matter if you sell through your own website or you sell through Amazon. Please make sure to look at the national holidays of the country where the manufacturers are located, because based on this, the shipping times will be affected in a tremendous way. Please make sure to warn your manufacturers about the orders in advance, better a few months in advance, so they can pre-plan. With the manufacturers in China, it's a little bit easier, but even for them, during the busy periods, you won't get any orders in. And manufacturers in Europe, in US, they're a little bit less flexible than the Chinese manufacturers are. So, their lead times might be fast, but the availability of the manufacturing space for your production they can produce the product basically in 30 days, but the next available manufacturing slot is in 2 months, right? So try to plan ahead. Sometimes delays are unavoidable, and the solution for getting your products in can be splitting your shipment in percentages. So, for example, shipping 20 or 30% of your goods by air and the rest by sea freight or rail freight, depending on where you're located. It helps a lot of us. Again, I'm a seller myself, so it helped us a few times, especially during the big holidays. Yes, sometimes I don't plan so well either. Have backup factories, I told you. Have backup countries, that's even better. If you look, for example, at China right now, they have zero COVID policy. So a lot of factories are still being closed down, close, open, close, open, close, open. You don't know what's going on. So it would be wonderful to have a backup in a different country because they won't be affected by the same government policies, right? So yes, stock, yes, prepare, yes, plan for the holidays. Right. So to give you a little bit of hints, so which products can I, for example, source in Europe? Which products can I produce in Europe? You can produce products that are made out of wood. It can be furniture, it can be toys, it can be some, developmental products as well. You can source textiles for home, for garden, for your clothing, beautiful dresses. Actually, textiles you can source in many different countries, right? Not only in Europe and in Asia, but even South Africa is opening up for this particular category of products. Chemicals. Oh, I love this category. Why? Because chemicals like for home, garden, anti-mold thing, even dishwashing, liquid and things like this. These are products that are reusable. Customers need to buy them again and again and again because you basically run out of them, so you need to buy. And if the customer likes your product, you can even put them on a subscription base and they buy again, again, and again. So another category of products are health products. So it's vitamins, it's powders, hair growth, beauty, for workouts, everything. And I mean, the possibilities are endless, especially in Europe right now. So many private label manufacturers. It's quite amazing how much the market is opening up. And the MOQs, the minimum order quantities, they're not so bad either. So even the beginners can get into the game. Another wonderful category is cosmetics. This is personal hygiene. This is decorative cosmetics. This is all your boosters and serums and creams and cleansers and foams, shampoos. So many manufacturers all throughout Europe. And imagine your USPs, your unique selling points when you're saying your cosmetics was made in France or made in Italy or made in Germany. This just sounds amazing. And the same goes for chemicals that we mentioned before, right? Germans, they're popular for this technology, cars, everything's good and good quality. So chemicals for home and garden, for cleaning, German quality. That sounds amazing, right? You can even get art supplies from and manufacture them in Europe, like canvases, brushes. You can get even mirrors. We have a customer who drop ships. He manufactures in Germany and drop ships mirrors, like we use mirrors at home, 3 meters by 3 meters. I think this is 10 feet by 10 feet, if I'm not mistaken, mirrors. And he drop ships them to the customers. Extremely popular item. What else in Europe? We got packaging out of paper, out of glass. We got stickers. We have even plastics can be produced in Europe. For example, your plastic cutting boards. Honestly, the amount of products that can be produced in Europe is quite large, and this is just a very, very small portion of it. For those of you who live in US and sell their products in US, just to give you a quick rundown, you can also produce wooden products in US, wood, metal, chemicals as well, the same home and garden, health products and cosmetics, yes and yes, tons of private label manufacturing. The industry for decorative cosmetic is quite large. For private label decorative cosmetic is quite large in US. Packaging also can produce. There are quite a lot of paper mills in the US and paper manufacturing industry in general. Even toilet paper and kitchen towels can be produced in US. They have very special technology for this as well. I can tell you about it next time. So in general, this is some of the information that I wanted to share with you, and to tell you a little bit more about us. So we're a company that is located on the global market. We have offices across the globe, and we have people across the globe, and we have faced many different customers. And it's not only about searching for new products, right? It's also about optimizing your current costs. It's also about optimizing your current products, and making sure that your margins are higher. Considering the world we're living in at this day and age, the prices are going crazy with electricity, with gas, with oil, labor costs are increasing. We need to make sure that we're getting the best out of every order. So one of the things that we also help do is to actually optimize costs. I give you an example, yet another example. We have a wonderful customer who came to us, and they were sourcing a product in China, and the product price was $2.73 just for the product itself. We thought that was a little bit expensive, and he thought that was a little bit expensive. And please keep in mind that this particular person, of just this one product, he sells, or last year he sold 300,000 pieces. 300,000 pieces, right? Last year. So what we did is we optimized his costs. Currently, he's purchasing this particular product for $1.55 So we basically almost saved him $1, which is about a little bit under $300,000 we saved on one product. And this was just the first step. You always need to make sure that you look at the packaging as well, because again, the first thing that the manufacturer gives you does not always necessarily make it the best thing that is out there. You cannot I'm gonna go back here to the point to show you about the amount of manufacturers that you contact, right? Like over here it shows contact and verify on average 30 potential suppliers. 30. We have so many customers who come to us and they say, we start communicating with them and they say, oh yeah, I've been in touch with 2, 3, 5. And I said, okay, wonderful. So did you have a call with them? Oh, no, I sent an email. Okay, and what are the next steps that you've taken? All right. When you're working with Chinese manufacturers, contacting them through Alibaba, 1688, global sources, or any other platform, this is very advantageous because they pretty much respond automatically quite fast in there, right? They usually have a customer support person who is sitting there and who will be answering the queries. You just need to follow up with the same question over and over again to make sure that you're actually getting the right answers. But when you're manufacturing, for example, in Europe or you're manufacturing in US, the contact template is a little bit different. So out of 60 manufacturers that we on average contact for manufacturers that are located in Europe or in US, the conversion rate is a little bit different. Out of 60, let's say 30 will respond and maybe 10 will provide prices for you. So in order to get those 10 prices, you actually need to find those 60 manufacturers to contact, and they need to be the right manufacturers to contact. They can't be just some average guys that you found. You can't just find 60 who have nothing to do with the industry and get the information from them. These need to be 60 relevant manufacturers that you can use. And an extremely important part, please do not just send emails. When you're sending emails, most likely you're not going to get any answers, or you're not going to get them soon enough, and you will be in trouble. On average, for us, it takes, when we're sourcing in, let's say, Europe or in US, it takes about 3 emails and 4 phone calls to get one price. So when someone tells me that they've sent one email to the manufacturer and they receive no response and they're very, very sad because they don't have any prices, I say, you need to buckle down. You need to contact them again and again and again. And if you can't find contacts of the manufacturers through their website, if no one is responding, please stalk them in the nice way on social media. You got LinkedIn, you got Instagram, Facebook pages, all of this. These are some of the things that we're doing as well. And they can be very, very helpful. Yeah. So honestly, Karen, there's tons of tips I can be giving for hours to come. That's for sure. These were just some little things about China and about, China and outside of China. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn for sourcing, because if you don't source the right product or source the right manufacturer, you can never get the right product out and do the right sales. So it's very important. I agree with your point regarding notifying the manufacturers months earlier, especially many of the factories are not fully back to functional yet. And also to have a backup factory because of the zero policy in China and the logistics issues, because even if they have everything manufactured, they can't get it out because all the ports are closed. So, and also to make notes of the holidays in various countries is very important. For example, despite the zero policy, which is already a pain, they also have like 2 weeks off for Golden Week in October, and then another long holiday for Chinese New Year. So it's very important to plan ahead.
And in May as well, yeah.
Yes. So it's very important to plan ahead and have a backup in other countries where they have holidays other time or not as long holidays. So I see a couple questions from the audience. Let me show this.
Wait, you mentioned, one thing you mentioned about the ports, right? This is a very good trick that what we're doing for our customers. So the Shanghai port, it only opened up in back in beginning of June. And of course, there's still a backlog. So what we're doing for our customers who produce in that area is we put the goods on the truck. We drive the truck north, Dalang, Tsingtao, Tianjin. You're only, 10 hours, 20 hours by truck away. But over there in those ports, there is no such congestion. So you spend one day driving, but you will ship out a lot faster than you would be shipping out from the ports in Shanghai or Ningbo in Beilun. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard from many of my friends saying their stock is actually stuck at the port for months, and they don't even know where it is now. They can't even track it down because it's just been there for months and probably expired, or because they do some seasonal stuff, so it's probably outdated and is a pain. It's a big loss for them. Okay, let's see a question from the audience. Do North American buyers face added risk sourcing in China now because of the current tension between the regions? Will Chinese give North Americans a fair deal, or should North Americans look for elsewhere?
I assume the situation is referred to Nancy Pelosi and her going to Taiwan. I was tracking her plane on flight radar as well, was very interested in what's going to happen, because obviously this affects our business a lot. Look, she came, she went. Is there tension? Yes, but honestly, a lot of tension is currently concentrated on the war between that Russia started. Currently, we do not see any problems with our customers. They are being treated fairly. The Chinese manufacturers are not giving them higher prices because of the tension. They're giving them higher prices because they can. And I would give everyone higher prices if I knew the customer will pay, right? This is kind of a capitalist market. Honestly, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. A couple of projections that came not from me, but from the people in the industry, shipping industry. I have a friend, he owns a shipping company for the last 50 years, or his family owns a shipping company, and they actually own ships, right? So he says that the shipping costs will all again increase, that it dropped now, but it will go back, the prices will go back up. That's the first thing. In terms of security of should you continue sourcing from China, honestly, yes, you should continue sourcing from China if the product comes from there. For example, if you're producing electronics, you don't have much choice. India currently started to also go for manufacturing of electronics. Plus in Europe you have Hungary. You can also do it in Mexico, but again, the problems of the country not being fully set up and functional in terms of cooperation between different industries in those countries will provide certain problems. So again, I'm a seller myself. We're still, for one brand, we're still producing in China, and currently we're staying in China, and we sell that product in Germany, and we sell that product in US. Can problems appear? Honestly, I think there will be more problems related to COVID again because of the zero COVID policy, rather than to the political issues, simply for the reason Chinese economy needs US economy needs China. We have the Trump tax. They might add a few more categories in there, but I don't think the whole thing is going to be completely destroyed.
Yeah, I think tax will be one of the major issue when it comes to the tension between the two countries. And you kind of touch on this. We have another question from the audience. How do you see the sourcing opportunity from India?
I love sourcing from India. We source tons of products from India. Homeware, silver, like silver goods, like, those, for example, beautiful champagne buckets and picture frames, jewelry, textiles, shoes, spices, seeds. So India is not a bad country to source your products from. However, you need to be quite aware that if you source from China, India will be a little bit more complicated because people are moving a little bit at a slower pace. And make sure, and this also goes for Chinese manufacturers, when you are talking to a potential manufacturer and you are asking a yes or no question, and for example, Karen, I'm asking you, are you drinking tea right now?
I'm having coffee right now. Sorry.
You see, yeah. This is a good answer. But if your manufacturer tells you yes, right? This is
Yes.
not the answer. Are you drinking tea right now? Yes, which
Yeah.
which is a fair answer, right? But
Yeah.
when working with Asian mentality, and this is just a cultural thing, you need to make sure that the people understood the question. So what I usually do is I ask them, could you please repeat the question back to me? And it's not
Yeah.
offensive, it's not anything. You just want to make sure that people know what you're talking about. So India for sourcing, awesome. I love it. We source from there. And Pakistan is nearby, and Bangladesh is nearby. So they have wonderful opportunities for sourcing. But you will need a lot more patience and maybe start practicing yoga or meditation. And that will help with the patience and getting things done through. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, good that at least India has like it's pretty fluent in English, so communication will be less of a barrier. Just that patience is very important when it comes to that. And yeah, I guess well, we are pretty tight with time. So and it's getting really late for you. Is what 3 a.m., 4 a.m. now?
4 a.m. So the breakfast. I'm actually sitting in the hotel in the breakfast room. Unfortunately, there is no food yet, and I'm hungry. So yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'll let you go take a rest, and you'll return again tomorrow during the summit's third session to tell exactly what Zignify can do to help people find the most suitable manufacturer and avoid all the pain points I was mentioned just now. So people, audience, don't miss out. And if you already have something that you have in mind, you can contact Julia directly at zignify.net for a free call, and they can tailor a solution for you. So yeah, thank you very much, Julia. It's getting late,
thank
so
you.
I'll let you
And
rest.
thank you, audience. Thank you for your questions, and enjoy the rest of your virtual summit. Quite interesting speakers you have lined up and quite interesting topics. That's pretty cool.
Okay, so I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye. Cheers.
Bye-bye. Okay, following a very interesting session by Julia, we'll have Stephen from Gamba. Let's add Stephen to the screen. Hi, Stephen.
Hi,
Seems
Karen.
like you're
How are
muted.
you?
Okay, great. How are you? Nice to see you again.
I know. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Gamba is our year-round summit headline sponsor, so it's really good to get the latest update from you every time when we have a summit. And then, so I'll just, because your session is relatively short, so I'll just let you start and then kick off with your
I'll go ahead and
content.
share
Do
my
you have a
screen
deck
if
to
that's okay
share?
with you.
Okay, yeah, sure, of course. Just
Awesome.
put it into the system and I'll pull it up.
Sure.
So where are you exactly right now? Are you traveling?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Austin.
So
Texas.
it's evening for you right now, right?
It's evening for me. Yes. But I think, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
All right. Let me try one more time.
Yeah. Because for me, we started early morning, 7 a.m. today, and then now it's 10 a.m. So
okay.
I'm starting to
you're on
feel
it all
more
day.
awake now.
Where are you located?
I'm in Hong Kong right now, and while I was hearing from all the speakers saying they were in Vegas, they were in Australia, we still have quarantine here, so I'm still stuck. But
Okay.
they're going to ease off the quarantine regulation next month, I think.
Okay.
So we will have our physical show exhibition in Hong Kong in October 11th to 14th. So for those that want to see us in person, please join us. Okay, I see your screen now.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, it's really exciting. I think as everyone comes off of COVID protocol, and I know there was some discussion about what to do in those cases before, but it's nice to be back in person with everybody. But Karen, thanks so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. Gemba, I've been on here before to talk about Gemba and its mission, but tonight I think in a unique case, I'd like to talk about some of the few new challenges that exist, I think, in our marketplace. And as the speaker talked before, there's a lot of different challenges with risk associated with certain areas and geopolitical problems and, of course, COVID protocols, as always, that throw a wrench into different things. Before I get started, want to kind of go into a little bit, talk a few seconds about myself. Why am I equipped to talk about this? Started my first company, Pride Bites, won 40 under 40 in the pet space, got onto the show Shark Tank, was able to expand pretty quickly. So went over to China, 50 plus, 60 plus times over an 8-year period. Learned kind of all what you need to learn about sourcing and production and development, and launched hundreds of products and sold millions to date. And then went on to take everything that I learned as a seller and creating products, and teamed up with my amazing co-founders and started Gemba alongside of our amazing team as well. And really our goal here at Gemba is to solve a lot of problems that creators face every day. And that can range across the board. You could have not have started yet. You could be a first-time creator getting onto the scenes. Maybe you have an existing product, or even you have multiple products, you've sold millions of products to date, et cetera, and you're looking for other options in terms of experienced creators. And so these questions range across the board, from where do I start? How do I get started? What happens if COVID hits during my current supply chain and during my current production, to, hey, there's a giant risk now, possibly in the Far East, and how do I move more west, possibly onshoring more, or even looking for other options in an area that we're super focused on, which is India as well. So all these things are typical creator problems that people face when they go into product development or sourcing or production management. And the general thesis behind all of this, as we all come together in this community, is that making products is hard, and making successful products is even harder. And how do I get my product to market successfully overall? And along that journey, you're going to have a lot of contributors. You're going to have people that help you with your product idea, bringing the concept to reality, right? Design experts, marketing folks, right? Development partners, manufacturing suppliers, whether it's a trading company or a factory itself, logistics partners, and finally fulfillment, getting those resources and finally those goods out to the physical public. And so who is Gemba, and how do we relate to all these things that we're talking about today within your supply chain and sourcing and product development? Well, we're a marketplace for product development and sourcing, production management. And we help companies globally from research to design, sourcing, and manufacturing. We have over 500 designers, whether that's an industrial designer or mechanical engineer, or electrical engineers, or anything other than that as well, in our network that can help you get your product to that point where you can go and start handing it to a factory, whether that's a product that has moving parts or has electronics or has injection molding. It doesn't matter, across the board. We can help you in a variety of regions too, not just China, but also in India and Vietnam and Mexico, Central South America, and also Eastern Europe. It's really important, I think, that you really strengthen your base now with this global environment and reach all the corners you can to see your best available options. We're committed to the e-commerce space and creators. And finally, we entered our Series A last year with an $11 million raise, and look to raise our Series B early on in 2023. So what we think at Gemba here is we really think about the product journey overall. We think that you should not be bound to the four walls of designers or sourcing agents or factories that you approach, right? You should have a wide spectrum, and being able to compare over a wide spectrum of folks who are there to help you either with research or concepting, design, sourcing, production, and logistics. And wherever you are on that journey, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, you'll need different folks, but of course, everything is unique to you in that journey, where you're starting and finish. Some people start on more of the production side. If you're an experienced creator, if you're just starting out, maybe you're starting on the research side. So either way, Gemba can help you. We provide those resources, whether you're looking for white label or branded journeys, whether you're looking for customized, what we call design to manufacturing. So slightly grab a white label product and slightly tweak it about 10% of those feature sets to make it more uniquely your own. And then finally, a full unique journey where you own the molds. Everything is done from scratch, and there's really nothing on the shelf that can compare to a product like that. But either way, there's a journey for you, and there's all those steps in the process for you to which to go by, and for you to find the best experts around in order to help get you there is what Gemba does for you. And in this, I want to share a case study that's a great example of, from start to finish, something that went through the whole Gemba process and the Gemba journey. And that's Cali Weights, our good friends over there. Eric Finkelman, who is just a stud. I think his product Cali Weights is doing just so well. just blazing paths right now. He came to us with the idea, really crafted it from the design, saw the visuals, saw how he designed it, really thought through the aesthetics and how it sat on someone's hands, went through the engineering to make sure that the CAD files were perfect and in perfect order to hand to a factory for them to pick up that work. And finally worked with us on the materials, partnering with a great supplier and coordinating with them to make sure that logistics was on time and production schedules were met in order to deliver those products to market very quickly, because he launched Cali Weights on a Kickstarter, did really, really well, and took off like a blazing fire. So great example of how you can go from idea in your head and where you can be any part of that journey, whether design or engineering or needing sourcing help or production management. Gemba can set you up with the right experts to help you along that way. So I'll now open up to Q&A. I think one thing that I'll press on to this time, since we come back kind of on a regular basis with you all here, is kind of two main concepts that I constantly hear, which is, how do I do product development without the cost? And then, how do I go out and find and relocate so I make sure that I'm de-risking my supply chain to give myself more variability, more options in case something does happen, right? How do we be proactive? So those are the types of things I think I'll leave you here today just to think about. And other questions that I'd be asking yourself on that journey is, how do I protect against those options that could potentially harm my supply chain? And how do I give myself an ability to really go out there and find better resources, new resources on a regular basis? And Gemba is here to really help you with that. Another thing just to end on is right now we're running a special by the end of the month. We know a lot of people have to get orders in and find new factories, find new supply chains, source new products before Christmas and possibly even Chinese New Year. So we have $500 off a milestone when starting with Gemba before the end of the month. Go ahead, just reach out on our website, let them know that you saw us on Global Sources, and we'll go ahead and honor that deal for you. So thanks so much. I'll go ahead and open it up to questions if you ask.
I don't see any questions from the audience yet. It might take some time to come in.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, talking about production costs, Neil from Gamba will be talking about product development without the cost of product development in the next session.
Okay.
So people do tune in and then learn more from Neil. He's the head of design from Gamba. So last time he talked a lot about the new products that he has been working on in his previous job. And I got so much feedback in the questionnaire from the audience saying that was a splendid session and people were just fascinated by
Neil's
it.
really incredible. He was director of design innovation at Dyson. He worked on some of the coolest products, I think, consumer products known to man, right? So definitely a great wealth of knowledge. Hope everyone really catches that. He's a fantastic resource, fantastic person to reach out to. So I really appreciate you hosting him as well.
Yeah. I have a question from the audience. I'm not sure if Mo can elaborate a little bit more. Do you include Botswana in your services?
Yeah, it's definitely a budding market, I think, for sourcing products as well. And, we're looking into new markets that alongside some of the stuff that we're seeing now in Central America, I think are also really exciting opportunities for sourcing and abilities for those to reach outside the typical status quo network. So I think Botswana is definitely emerging on the scene quickly and something that we should all be watching.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. For, as mentioned by Stephen, we have a free consultation from Gamba, the special offer from Gamba. So do reach out to them on their website or bit.ly/GSVS-Gamba, which is a special link that we have arranged for the audience here. And then you can get a free consultation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just go ahead and mention that you saw some Global Sources. We'll honor you a $500 discount to get started, which is essentially a free month to test us out. So awesome opportunity for us and look forward to it. And Karen, thanks again for hosting us tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll see you again probably at the next summit, if not earlier.
Sounds good. Good to see you. See you again soon.
Okay. See you again soon. Bye-bye. Okay, so as mentioned, we'll have a presentation by Neil McQueen, Head of Design, in the next session, so stay tuned. Once again, thank you, Stephen. Before we wrap up for the session, let's have a look at what's on offer from a couple of our verified suppliers.
Qingdao Lady Style Cosmetics is an OEM and ODM lashes supplier. It is a company has ability to develop new material and make design and sales on lashes. We mainly many kinds of lashes extensions and eyelash extension kits. Our products are widely sold to Europe, America, Middle East, and other. We have long-term cooperation with many well-known beauty brands. Our service tenet is to establish your own brand at the lowest cost and to provide customers with a one-stop shopping experience for beauty products and allow you a better and more convenient way of brand operation. We sincerely hope that we could have long-term cooperation with our every customer. We will try our best to supply best service for you. The one you love, the best we will do.
Eyelash extension, ST Plus material, origin Japan, deep black and soft. It is a kind of new material in the market. We have over 500 cooperating customers in USA. MOQ is 2,000 boxes. You can have different sizes. There are many kinds of lashes for your choice. Classic lashes, volume, resin, pre-made fan lashes, color flat, regular color, and so on. All can be made with your brand label. Lashes shampoo. We are top supplier of lashes shampoo. There are around 13 kinds of scent and over 30 kinds of packing options for you. For our shampoo, it is oil-free, rich for long-lasting. It can clean lashes extensions, strip lashes, remove mock-ups. All are plant ingredients, workable for sensitive people. There are also whole set lashes products for your choice. Lashes glue. We have around 8 kinds of lashes glue to meet different customers using. For the fastest one is 0.3 second dry, 8 weeks retention. Here is a video for showing. And the most important is that this is a medical grade glue safe for pregnancy lady. You're welcome to test samples and ask price.
Hi, I'm Aaron from BGC Technology. We are a leading company in the commercial display industry in China. We provide products and services to many renowned brands and companies all over the world. We have our own brand, but we also do OEM and ODM business. I'm in our factory now. It's a source factory for many products in China and the world. Now, let me present to you some of our products. First, digital display or digital signage. We have many kind of digital signage in different size and shapes. Then our 4K touchable view system, all-in-one PC or interactive smart board. In Android mode, you can use it as a blackboard. Write or draw on it with the pen or your finger, like this. By simply press on the screen, you can change it into the Windows system. Then it's become a personal computer with a big touchable screen. How cool is that, right? We also have LED products. These are splicing LED screens with flexible display tiles and flat display tiles. For all these displays, no matter it's LED or LCD, you can send pictures, videos, and other forms of media via our publishing system online or on your smartphone remotely and easily. We also have the capability to design and produce interactive display system dedicated to you. Like this set, it's a special design for a car dealership. If a customer doesn't like the color of the car, what you need to do is just press a button here. See, I like this car. Okay, that's it for now. For more information about us and our products, please search BJC on globalsources.com. And best wishes for Global Sources Virtual Summit 2022. Thank you.
So that was another to verify supplier from globalsources.com. If you want to see more of their details and their offerings, do visit them on our website. Before we end this session, I'd like to remind you to join us again for the next session, which will happen in about 7 hours. We'll have Amy Wees, the expert in marketing, to share the product image strategy for maximum conversion that is mentioned. Because earlier this morning, well, early in this session, we were talking about how to present your products to the buyers to make it attractive. So Amy Wees will cover that. And then Neil from Gamba to talk about product development without the cost of product development. Then Frederick will talk about product compliance for importers and Amazon sellers around the world. He will share his insights on all the custom issues, the legal issues that you might run into when it comes to sourcing internationally and selling internationally. Meanwhile, don't forget to visit us at globalsources.com/summit to see what our speakers and sponsors are offering. The full agenda will be there and speakers' details as well. So see you all in a few hours. Bye-bye.